Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's October 23 of 2024. That's how counting works. You go from 23 to 2024, obviously.
Yeah.
You just jump, another 2001, and then you're done. And then...
Yeah, you just added 2001 to all your things, and
right.
It makes it a little bit better.
I think this might be what the Y2K bug was. Or what the solution was to avoid it. So, we're back on doing the show. Nick's in a weird mood because Nick's been working from home this week, and all of his entire internal clocks are just messed up right now. So this is the energy I'm bringing today. Yay!
Well, thank you for being here under duress. I imagine you're probably like, there's nothing less I want to do than be in my home and feel like I'm working to some degree.
It depends on the kind of work I have to do.
Well, I will do my best to make this the funniest episode of Weekly Manga Recap ever.
That's a tall order. We've been pretty hilarious in the past.
We have, and I'm making the bold proclamation: we are never going to be funnier than we are in this episode.
So you guys can just stop watching the show after this.
No. This is going to be the funniest episode of WMR ever until next week. And next week, that's going to be a good episode. Now you're going to have to remind Quinn of next week that she needs to keep this bit going because she's kind of trapped herself in it. If I ever don't say, like, next episode, though, is going to be the funniest, then a lot of people are going to be like, all right, I've seen the peak. I'm going to go. I can finally quit
Wash
WMR.
my hands of this.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that this is just the beginning of the ascent towards the peak, but it's like one of those like mathematical equations that like never actually stops going up. So we're just going to keep on approaching that event horizon and never get there.
Los Countos Diablos, I believe, is the official term for that kind of number.
Absolutely not. But
why not, Nick? What about it sounded inaccurate?
Do you want me to start from the category of the mathematical or the category of the linguistic?
You're not.
Or do you want me to like start in the middle and work my way out to either end?
Oh no! Well, don't start in the middle. That defeats the purpose. I want to get it from one end and then whiplashed into the other end at some point.
All right.
I want to feel like what's his name was for World Tour last week, Rokuro, where you just get shit slapped for 2 straight. You're like, oh, we're not done, eh? Okay.
Oh, it's even worse than that. No. I sometimes actually felt a little bit of whiplash, actually, reading the series that we prepared for this week, which is You Will Hear the Voice of the Dead, or by its Japanese title, Shibito no Koe wo Kiku ga Yoi, which ran in the 2010s, actually quite a while it lasted, because it was, I guess, like a monthly series. And it is a horror manga, because that is generally what we tend to cover on October, as we prep up for Halloween. And but this is the first series we're covering for this month. You haven't missed any others, even though we're towards the end of the month, because there was a very scary thing that happened to me, which was a hurricane. So partially as a result of that, I had a really hard time getting into a rhythm of actually reading this series.
Fair.
But the series starts off with introducing us to this high school student named Jun, whose very good friend, his childhood friend, Hayakawa, has died recently. And only Jun is able to see her ghost. Her ghost never really talks to him in any way, but kind of follows him around.
She points a lot, though.
Points a lot.
She's really good at pointing to things and being like, shit's real over there. She doesn't say those words, but you can tell with the way she's pointing. She's like, shit's gonna be bad.
That's right. And so she gets him out of a lot of bad situations. What kind of bad? Well, this boy's cursed. Like this is a horror series in which over time you learn that June has some manner of psychic ability, some sort of sensitivity to weirdness, and mostly early on it manifests through Hayakawa warning him of things, because she sees things that he doesn't, and she communicates those things to him, often through very, very non-urgent warnings. Like she could just, like, anytime this guy is going to go someplace, she could just go say, no, don't go there.
It's very amusing because Hayakawa is not like, she is like a ghost, but she seems to be like an omniscient ghost who seems to like objective. Like we never see her investigating anything. She just ghostly knows like, if you go over there, not to spoil any of the imaginative stories coming up, but she might just be like, a giant axe will fall on you from the sky and rip you in half or something like that. And then he's like, whoa, I won't, why are you stopping me? And then boom, the giant axe will fall. It'll be like, oh, okay. So it's a very interesting dynamic because narratively Hayakawa has to do no work in the series really. But she is significant to every chapter because she has to be the warning that this kid is about to stumble into something bad or has interacted with somebody bad. And it's always just a gentle nudge. It's never like, oh, I need to communicate a more complicated thought to him or something like that. Just point.
There. For whatever reason, June, a lot of his misadventures come because he joins the Paranormal Research Club at his high school, which is where we get our two main supporting characters beyond Hayakawa. I think, what is it? I can't even remember their names.
I know it's President. She's president.
She's always just known as the President. Yeah.
Gosh, I know.
Something.
I did see his name, and I was like, you should try to retain this because there really is only like 5 characters in this whole series, but I just couldn't remember his name. But so neither of them are super great. So
no.
Well, my feelings on the President are complicated.
I understand why.
Because she is objectively one of the worst human beings in existence.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that is intentional from the writer who recognizes that and is like, this is just like a fun catalyst for things. Like, what if you just had an extremely like what if you had power but not like restrained in any way? What if she really did just kind of do whatever she wanted?
She starts off because, so as I said, this is a mostly episodic series at the beginning, I should say it is. And then there is a larger plot towards the end where things come to, a big climax after, having some stuff built up. But for a lot of it, it's like, oh, so June goes into the situation and there is, a ghost haunting, this apartment that is clearly having some sort of negative effect on the people there, but they can't see it because they don't have the ability to see them, and of course June can see them. Or they come across like kappas at one point, haunted dolls and that kind of thing, and then there's just also just straight up serial killers that they come across. And so the first time that the occult club comes into play, it's the President, this third character's name I don't remember because he's just always kind of the guy who's there and is just kind of dumb and just like normal. And then a bunch of other students are with them as they kind of get taken on this tour around a town where there's this story of like people who, vanished, and it turns out that the townspeople are conducting this massive conspiracy where they like sacrifice strangers who come as tourists to these creatures that lurk underground in these caves. So the students are all running around in these caves trying to get away from these creatures, they discover like the bodies of some of the previous victims, and one of them had a gun. And so the president takes the gun, and she, is like, okay, I've got a gun and we can defend ourselves. So she kills like one of them with it, and then she's like, oh, there's so many of these things. And so instead, she as they're trying to find a way out, she'll occasionally just point the gun at one of them and be like, sacrifice yourself for us.
Yeah.
Like, just stay behind and hold them off so that the rest of us can get away. And of course, she starts, running out of people, and she eventually is turning it on Kishida, on June, in order to get him to do this. And fortunately, at that point, Hayakawa goes, and instead he's like, wait, I see the way out. And, and so it involves them like taking a leap of faith and stuff. And it looks like at that moment that the president's going to be too much of a coward, that she's not going to make the leap of faith. And so the things are going to kill her because she's going to run out of bullets. And instead she survives. So she gets the whole big thing where she's, like the villain victim, like you see in a lot of horror movies where like one of the survivors is the biggest asshole. It's so that when they die towards the end of the story, it's like satisfying, like, yeah, fuck you. You're the one who deserved to get taken out like that after they've screwed over everyone else. And instead, turns out she did make that jump, and she did survive along with June and the other guy. And she goes right back to being the president of the occult club and suffers no consequences for this.
And she got to keep the gun.
Keeps the gun and uses it on some of their subsequent adventures, and keeps on leading them into situations where they're all going to die because she's like, there's a creepy thing happening here, and she does not get in her mind that this is a bad thing to do.
It's kind of funny. She is just like she will very frequently be like, things look bad. You guys are the Suicide Squad. You could go off on this mission where you're sure to die, and I will stay here with the... Like, she's always doing this, and it's never examined critically, really. I did not finish this series, admittedly, for reasons I'm going to get into in a little bit. So I don't know if she does get her, Charlie Brown finally kicks that football or something. But every time it happens, everyone just kind of goes along with it, and they're just like, she's not that smart, so I think we can actually get out of this just fine. Like, she just thinks we're kind of fucked. But at this point, Kishida's survived, 30 fucking, near-death experiences. Like, you'd think he would get used to it to a certain extent. I kind of like her as this weird agent of chaos who, I will say, is not overused in the portion that I read through. I don't know if, the end of it, she's in every chapter, but as it was, she would generally just have, a chapter or so every, 5 or 6 chapters. And that was kind of a tolerable pace. It was like, oh, here comes the president again.
Yeah.
To be a fucking idiot. That ceases to even be the plot. Suddenly they're like, we need a new thing.
It's just an accepted thing that she's going to be there, and she's going to be like, well, there's some killers on the loose. You run at them screaming while the rest of us run away.
Yeah, yeah. 100. There's eventually the chapter is the theme of it's carnivorous animals that aren't normally carnivorous. So pigs that are eating people and shit like that. And that, she just happens to be present for it. And it's you guys go sacrifice yourself. It's there is an actual other character who is the bad guy victim who escapes and then gets, viciously killed because he didn't go back for his friends. But this girl never changes her morality at all. She's never gotten better as a person or anything like that. So it's this very strange dichotomy where it's a morality play for just this character, and the other one, yeah, she's a little zany. What are you gonna do?
And there are times when the story is deliberately comedic in tone.
Sure.
There are some that are meant to be oh no, this is scary, or this is really creepy. And then there are some that are they are horror stories, but they're also just really goofy.
Yeah.
In tone and execution. And so I kind of learned to appreciate her presence in some of them, because it was like, oh, this is like just a really wild sequence of events, and then the president is here just being the worst person in the world while it all happens around her. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just kind of appreciate that dynamic where she's just there and just being horrible, because this is just such a wild situation. It makes things more interesting and entertaining.
Yeah.
And she is probably one of the most memorable characters in the story. So
she is definitely memorable, and I do appreciate her when she shows up. I guess we should talk to some of the horror of this. We took this because this is Halloween month. Spookmaster General, boo, all that sort of stuff. And this is essentially a collection of like relatively unconnected horror stories. Again, eventually later on, there's a bit more to it. But this is like, each chapter is usually different from the one before. There's like one or two chapters that I think that are like two-parters or whatever. But, generally these are unique stories with unique scares, unique tones, all that sort of stuff. That's just connected by the loose plot thread that Kushida is going to be the one encountering it. And Hayakawa, his ghost best friend. And like very serialized comic book. Once per chapter, he'll be like, this is my friend Hayakawa, or her ghost.
Every single time she shows up, the first time in the chapter, it's like, my friend Hayakawa is a ghost that only I can see. It's like,
I'm like,
yes, correct.
Like, we're 40 chapters in. This premise hasn't shifted. It's not like it's been something different. So yeah, someone interested, but that's what connects them. And I think there are some moments of this that are genuinely quite scary. One of the ones that like caught me early on is a chapter where Kishida's cousin is coming to stay with him. And
that was the one I wanted to make a note of. Yeah.
There's an amusement park, and she wants to keep going into this abandoned amusement parks because she finds something beautiful about like ruin and decay. And then we find out that this amusement park is like the most cursed amusement park of all time. Like a Ferris wheel carriage dropped, killing everybody inside and more people on the ground. They needed to note that. And then after the park reopened, a serial killer showed up, killing everybody trying to get in line for the Ferris wheel. Why would you make that your star attraction upon your return? Like,
yeah.
It's back, guys. The Ferris wheel that might kill you.
My popular demand.
But he killed, like, a serial killer killed them. So she starts getting, like, this weird, like, obsessive need to be in this amusement park. And Hayakawa is like, you got to get out of here. She doesn't say that. She probably just points to his fucking house. And he's like, I get it. All right. Like, sometimes she's kind of just his mom. Like,
yeah.
go to bed, June. Stop talking to the chupacabra.
He's just like at home, and he's on his feeling around he's feeling on his phone, browsing the internet, and she just appears around him. This is my best friend Hayakawa. She's a ghost that only I can see. She just like points at his school books. No, I don't want to.
Her pointing at the vegetables he didn't eat, like, But anyways, it eventually ends on this moment where June is like convinced to go to the park as well. He's like, we haven't seen my cousin for a while. Like, I'm starting to get a little nervous. And she's like, hey, like, you can see the park's kind of alive, right? Let's go ride the Ferris wheel. And he's about to get on it, and Hayakawa, I think, like, grabs his hand, and he stops. And the page turn to that shows this is like a carriage of the damned. Like, thousands of dying souls in there. There's like a mascot behind him that's demonic. It's like legit very unnerving. And the cousin did not survive the encounter. This series will kill a lot. Like, everyone new it introduces.
And they describe it really creepily afterwards, where it's like she fell from a tremendous height, even though there's nothing standing there anymore. So, and even on top of that, before they get there, she's been going to this place for weeks, and she's been slowly decaying away, looking like a shambling zombie by the time that the story ends. It is a very creepy story, and not every story in the series is like that. There is all sorts of weird, different approaches to horror that happen because of the episodic nature of the series. There is one that focuses on like a family of serial killers who are obsessed with remaking um, this snuff film. So like they lure people out to this house so that they can kill them all and record everything and stuff. It's because like some of them are like descended from the original people who made the first horror film in like the 70s. And it's a bizarrely goofy story by the end of it, because it turns out that like it's almost like a Scooby-Doo plot where like everyone is in on this, ghost story where where they lure people outside and then they're gonna get them all and stuff. But then they end up like turning on each other and being very nonchalant while they're killing each other. And again, like the president is being just the worst person, just being like, you gotta stay here while we go to the police.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of like they leave one of the girls behind. Like one of the members of their club is going to be the next victim, and she's just like, "I'm gonna book it. You guys keep investigating them." And again, she's not the focal point of the chapter. It is just her quirky character trait after a while.
Yeah. So there are silly things, and then there are, the horror ones. And then there's the perverted ones. So
there's a couple that I was like, I'm just going to flip through this because I can tell I'm not going to like this. And that became kind of a thing for me relatively quickly, as I was like, oh, this is going to be one of the bad ones, or this is going to be one of the boring ones. Sometimes it would surprise you, but generally, like, there was one about like whatever the other guy, we keep forgetting his name, his little sister. There was like another ghost where I was like just kind of zooming through it. I was like, I can already tell I'm kind of glad that I'm skipping this one.
That story is the one that made me basically stop reading the series and instead just kind of start skipping around. To reduce the risk of this getting flagged when we stream this, let's just say that the ghost of that story is a sexual deviant, and there is a reason that he is targeting the girls who are like 8 years old.
What's the TikTok, the PDF file or something like that?
Right,
is how they get through the algorithm.
And so it's a funny chapter, you see, because the way that they stop it is there is this recurring character who is also psychic, and they're also an idol, and her big thing is that she is very easily possessed. So
I like that as a character trait for like something in a horror movie kind of like anthology thing like this. It's a fun character premise.
So June calls her up for help, and she comes, and because her ability just like naturally draws spirits to possess her, this PDF file ghost is zapped into her body, and he immediately goes, no, I don't want to possess anyone who's over 15 years old. So that happens. He does a thing where one of the girls ends
2011, you say?
Ends up wetting herself, and it's just like a thing that occasionally happens. Girls just wet themselves in fear, because that's a thing that happens in this series.
Does it happen more than that one time?
Well,
I also stopped.
Eguchi, the one girl who joins the occult club who got kidnapped, I think that she pissed herself while she was.
Oh, yeah, okay. I think that might have happened as well, and I was like, whatever.
So at the end of the chapter, everything is fine because like the ghost is repelled by the closer to legal age girl that he's possessing, and so they defeat it and take it out. But then it turns out, at the end of it, there's a funny joke that the story ends on, which is that the girl who is the one guy's little sister, she's sitting on the couch with him and says, I want Kishida to take my virginity. And it's funny because she's like 8. So Uh, there are times in this story where it gets just bad like that.
Yeah.
And having all of them in a row in that chapter made me decide, you know what? I'm done. I I made a good showing for myself. I hung out in the ring with Kurt Angle for a bit, but
Yeah.
he decided to hit me with the angle slam and put me in the ankle lock, and then
Yeah.
he dropped into the grapevine all at once, and so I tapped.
I was
I'm
gonna
not going to
say,
try and fight through that.
eventually took off the straps. I put in my show.
Yeah, I'm done.
I got Goku to go SS3. I proved myself.
So I was done at that point. I made sure that I had the context that it doesn't just do purely just one shot chapters after that. But I clocked out and was done. So sometimes that happens in a series where it's like, this is like, it's okay, it's bad, it's good, it kind of jumps around, and then you hit that point, and I was like, I'm done. I don't need any more. So
Sure. Yeah. So I'll say I didn't stop there. I didn't really read that chapter. I said I just flipped through it once. I was like, I was kind of running short on time, and I was like, do I want to keep like trying to push through or not? Let me try to like see this chapter doesn't look good. Skip. And that was kind of the catalyst that got me to start like skipping a little bit more. And then eventually I just said like, I'm just not really enjoying it. Like the episodic nature of this means that like some of these are really going to hit and some of them won't. And I was getting more misses than hits. There are some good ones. One we didn't talk about that's relatively early on is just one of June's classmates comes by his house and suddenly she's gone. And he's like, that's so weird. And he keeps feeling like she's around though. Like he keeps seeing like food that was in the fridge out on the counter and all this sort of stuff. He's like, what's going on? And he comes home from school like a week later or whatever. And his mom's like, oh, your classmate's family stopped by. I don't really know where they went. And suddenly it's very clear there's an entire family living in his house.
yeah.
And that's just kind of like, that's not how it ends. It ends with them being like, and we sold our house and left. It was too freaky. And then he goes on to find out the people who have taken over the house at this point is like looking around, like they're insane. Who has ever taken the house now at this point has been driven insane searching for these people who are trying to live in their house. And like, I don't know, it was just very unnerving, felt very like, in that same like Junji Ito, like the surrealism is kind of the horror of it kind of way, where it is also a little comedic too.
Yeah, it's an absurd premise, but also just the very nature of like, there is someone in your house and you never find them. That's just like a creepy feeling to have when you put yourself in the shoes of the character that is experiencing it. But then if you're a third person observer and you see it happening, it's like, that's just kind of weird. So yeah, it is an odd, I do remember that chapter as being an odd one. And also there's like the 2D family, or is that the same one?
That's the same one. Like eventually he
yeah.
confronts the girl at school because she does still go to school with him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, hey, you living in my house? She like turns 2D and like floats away. He's like,
goodbye.
Maybe we should move. So that one I thought was good. Another one that stuck out to me was the Clayman story. Because this town is like nothing but fucking urban legends.
Yeah.
Like they're like, that's the pharmacy where a man took 17 shots of insulin at once and exploded. We still use it. like all of our pharmacies are haunted. So
have you guys ever thought about moving?
Yeah, like why doesn't everyone
just all of you
leave this town? This doesn't seem great. But there's one where there's the Clayman, which is like this urban legend of like a killer made of clay, and no one knows like why they're made of clay, and they have like a hook hand. It's very like hash slinging slasher like nonsense urban legend. But the fun twist is eventually it's realized that June created this guy, that he had witnessed something he shouldn't have seen because of his supernatural powers as a kid, and he created this urban legend to explain it. And he created the rules for this guy. Like, he literally pulls out the sheet he designed it from, and he gave the motherfucker traits. And he's like, oh, this guy's going to kill me. And he realizes oh wait, I made this. And he just writes in as a new trait, dies immediately. And the clay man just dies. And I was like, that was a clever solution to this problem. Like, I like that we put a fun twist on this, and the ending's kind of stupid in a really fun way.
It's interesting because that's basically like a golem, like a traditional golem, where you have like the parchment that like is their soul kind
Sure.
of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely something unique. But I just found it funny. Like again, he just grabs his, because I remember designing a monster when I was a kid, and like the idea of that chasing you was very funny. Because like I'm sure I think it was just a giant flying eyeball, to be honest. So I do just I do just kind of like the idea that he has once he realizes like, oh, I made this, I'm gonna make it suck. I'm gonna be like, it dies immediately. This blows. It's very funny. And then one that I wanted to point out that I did not like, which is the cult one, which I thought was going to be really, really exciting because it's like, oh, he and his mom, like, are convinced to like hang out with like his mom's cousin or some family or friend relation of his mom, and they go out for this like festival out in the woods, and they're like, hey, you have to walk here. We think it's important. Like, gods won't show up around GPSs and stuff like that. Like, you have to go in yourself, so no phones, none of that sort of stuff. And then they get there, and it's like clearly like a cult, and they're very much like swept up in it, and it looks like they're going to be killed. And then the twist is no. It's like the Heaven's Gate group, essentially. They all ritualistically sacrifice themselves and leave them behind as witnesses to the higher plane they've ascended to. And then the mystique at the end is like, and the next night there was a meteor. Ooh. Because that's a lot of how the stories kind of end, is like with this whimsical, like, maybe it's still going. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Everything in this town is a ghost. Like, I don't know why anyone's still here. Like, also, one small note, criticism, nitpick. The president uses the gun, to my knowledge, only once more. She takes it on one more mission, and then the next time she shows up, someone asks her, and she's like, my mom
Why didn't you bring the gun?
Yeah, she's like, my mom found it and threw it away. But
threw it away.
She brings the gun on another mission, shoots something, and there's more coming at her, and they're like, you gotta reload. And the gun she's firing is a 6-shooter. I was like, it had one bullet. You loaded one bullet into it? Like, it has a cylinder visible. What are you talking about?
Of all the guns in the world, you should know how many bullets are go into this.
The most visible bullet to empty system you could possibly have.
Also, the most like famous number of bullets
Yes.
a gun contains out of any gun has ever been invented.
I remember 2011, 6-shooters were still a big thing back then. You know, I don't know what Apple's putting out nowadays. Probably 13 shooters, 15 shooters. I don't know, but back in the day, a 6-shooter was still very impressive.
You got to put like your thumbprint on the casing in order for it to reload itself.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a thing, isn't it? Like,
no, then I don't think.
Oh no, because that'll make it. That'll be safer. They would never do that thing.
Yes, 100%. And nothing that would ever make guns less convenient than what they are now shall ever happen.
Yeah. How dare you try and do something so that only the person who purchased this gun and has a license to carry it can use it? No, that's no good.
To note, because people are mentioning in the chat, like, oh, this is Japan. They're probably not like bullet. They explained she just bought bullets online.
She just bought bullets.
Yeah, she just bought them online. Very easily. So
this 15-year-old girl,
unless she's really, really stupid and she just bought one bullet, which if that is the case is very funny. But I think she bought more, and like, you have to write it as like, she's so stupid she only loads one bullet at a time, even though it's a 6-shooter. Like, she's just like the
man, I wish I didn't have to pull the trigger 5 times before I could fire a bullet from this thing.
Like, the idea that the president is so fucking stupid is like the secret driving force of her character is kind of almost a necessary detail, because it makes a lot of her actions make a lot more sense.
Yeah. I do kind of wish that this premise that we have, this, like Ghost Hunter crew kind of thing, were on like a more consistent in tone series, because I like some of the ideas in it.
Sure.
Like I feel like that the main premise you start off with of like June's friend died and her ghost follows him around and silently warns him of things. Like that's just like a thing you can just like do a bunch of things with. But it's mostly again just so that she can like point at stuff.
Yeah.
And, don't do that.
Well,
Um
I don't want to pull you away from your thought. But I will just note, can we also then talk about how there's like a long gap in any plot development around Hayakawa at some point?
Yeah, there are occasional things where like something will happen with her that will sort of be a hint towards her nature, and then it'll just be like dropped and never mentioned for a while and then brought up again later.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but there's a specific example I want to use. I don't want to pull you off your thought process, though.
No, go ahead. It's
Yeah.
I do there are certain details of this nature that were like long running that I did just generally kind of forget.
Yeah, at the end of the first volume, I forget the exact situation that sets it up, but June is talking to another ghost, and I think he mentioned something about like, oh, I'm glad Hayakawa was staying around or something like that, and the ghost says something to the degree of like, don't you get it? She's stuck here because of you.
She's tied to you.
She's tied to you, and that is not examined again in like I think I read like another 3 volumes worth after that, and it did not come up. I think even once during that entire period, there is never a concern of like him being like, "Why is she tied to me? Why did that feel like a warning? Like, what does that ultimately mean?
Is this bad for her?
Yeah, am I punishing her in some like is this the bad thing that I've done to her? Like it's just an unexamined thing. I'm sure it eventually gets like this series did run for a while and then concluded. I'm sure it gets dealt with at some point, but that felt like a long stretch to not even give like a morsel of a tease about what's going on.
The most that I remember seeing that involved Hayakawa was showing some bits of her life before she died. And so, of course, you get to see some more of her personality in those. And it's like, oh, she was, just kind of a regular girl. And so there are bits of that show like, oh, this is like what her relationship with June was like during her life, which is a nice thing to do. But at the same time, I feel like I did want more bits that involved her because that felt like it was the hook of the series from the beginning was my friend died, her ghost is following me around and helps me to solve ghost mysteries, basically.
Yeah.
And so for her to just kind of be an also thing, as opposed to like the main focus of the story for a good chunk of it at least, did feel like not putting things in the right order. Like there wasn't a sense of, well, this needs to happen so that this will happen. We are doing this so that I can do this. We are doing these things to help us find the mystery of what's going on with Hayakawa so that she can pass on, or so that she can communicate with me better or discover her true nature or anything like that. June just kind of accepts the situation as is, that like his dead friend is following him around, and it's just kind of like, yeah, okay. So it's annoying in a sense, but given the way that the chapters unfold for a big chunk of the series, at least, it is very clear to me that this is a series that set out to be something that I was not interested in. So any advice that I have or any objections I have are kind of like, pointless because like, well, I wanted something entirely different than what was presented, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're kind of wrapping up our final thoughts here. Then on this series, we do have a couple big recap series to get to. But if I'm to give my final thoughts, like I did enjoy this. There were moments of like legit scares. I'm starting to try to get more into horror and like accept it as an art form and like embrace it a little bit more. So like I was enjoying some of the terrifying moments that would pop in and out. But generally speaking, there aren't that many. I think I named most of the like chapters that left like an impression on me because there's a lot where I'm just like, I get it. Like, you're in a spooky house, or oh, you're in like an old mansion that had a serial killer in it. There's like 17 fucking serial killers in this town. Like, who's the population? It seems like everyone is dead. And
just turns out to be one of those like ghost story novels where it's like, and everyone is dead, even the protagonist was actually dead the whole time.
I mean, look, I did not get to the ending, so I do not know if someone wants to in our chat tell me how it ends, but I have a suspicion that it probably does involve like, oh, I guess you find out like maybe June had like some kind of bad relationship with Hayakawa at some point or something like that. Like, I don't know. They definitively showed how she died. She got like kidnapped by like a school teacher and murdered, or a school nurse, I think. But like, I just assume there's something that they're going to do there at some point. Like, there's a big twist there. And I think that's just the point, is that everything has kind of like a spooky, unnerving twist to it. And that's fine. Like, I think that's going to really work for some people. And I do love anthology series, but this one I think just had too many misses for me. There's a lot of ideas that feel undercooked. And like, you kind of have to really be into like really mean-spirited, I don't even want to say friendship, but just like coexistence between June and like everyone in the cast. Like, he's not like a fun friend or anything like that. Like, everyone's kind of a dick.
It feels like the best friends that he encounters are the recurring psychics that he occasionally comes across. They're the only ones that are actually like willing to be real with him on things and are willing to go out of their way to help him out.
Yeah. His mom's good too. I actually like his mom quite a bit.
His mom's fine, yeah. Anyway, I don't have any other thoughts to offer.
Well, the Spookmaster General on a scary scale gives this one a 5? 6? Low 6 though. Low 6. Ooh, hold on, wait. Ooh.
Okay. With that being said, we do have some manga to talk about, and Quinn's definitely not doing anything else while she's
It didn't even work. I didn't even get to. This sucks. Undead Unluck. Let's talk about number 227. I'm for either or. So, we see this, sort of follow-up to last week when Apocalypse died. All of the memories of Juez from all the previous loops flooding into Julia, and she sits there holding Apocalypse's dead body. I don't really know.
He looks like he's sleeping.
Yeah, like, I also don't know what life truly was. Like, did Apocalypse have a soul? Like, I don't even know.
Was Apocalypse a tree before he was a book?
Yeah, he was a shit ton of evil trees, and they all got made together into a really shitty book. But she's crying. She's like, yeah, the memories of you and like old me shared, like those were really beautiful. And I also now know the way to manifest on justice. So leave the rest to me. You take a nice long rest. Top, I need your help. Take me top. And before she can finish, a big beam of light crashes down in front of her. And a figure from the dust starts speaking and says, I swear I'm sick of this. Taking on opponents you stand no chance against. And as the speech continues, we cut to the different fights. We cut over to Shen and Mui versus Time. And Mui is starting to age. And Shen says, you're every, even cute, even as an old lady.
It's sweet.
It's very, very sweet. And then, you fight despite being at a huge disadvantage. We cut over to Billy and Tella against War. And still, as I observe each of you, we cut over to Justice, who has slashed Yusai with their sword and embedded it in her. And she's like, gotcha, bitch, because of Undraw. This is my sword now.
You can live with a sword inside of you, right?
Yeah, it's like a cool move, and I wonder if this was the only time that oh gosh, it's not. I want to say it's Tabata, but it's not Tezuka. Tezuka was like, "Oh, I have a cool idea for Undraw," and has been holding on to it for this exact moment. Like one day someone's gonna like slash Yusai with the sword, and she gets that sword now.
Yeah.
And the figure's speech continues. I find those hopeful looks on your face never change. And we finish seeing Latla and Rip against 6. But as it is revealed to us, Soul speaking this whole time says, if you go away, they will change. You will die here on Justice. After all, you're already dead. Cut over to Change, who is like biting her thumb, and she's like, Soul, what are you so nervous about? Juez died without looping and Change. Didn't see? Like, all you have to do is just leave her. Or maybe you don't believe in my rule. Is that it, Soul? And she gets real mad. She's like, this is pissing me off. Don't you feel the same way, Gina? And Gina just gets fucking hit by a tree. She just fucking hurled a tree at her. And Gina is kind of laughing. She's just like, pfft. And Change is like, have you lost your mind? Like, what are you going to do? And Gina's like, I just find it very funny. You're the master rule of change, but the prospect of not changing terrifies you. And for a brief moment, Change seems like a little bit rattled. Like, she's like, what?
What are you talking about?
Say what?
What?
And Gina's like, nailed it, I guess. You really, like, it makes you scared that there are rules that you can't change. Change is like, no, fuck you. She, like, goes, like Phoenix Wright, like, you still have to present one more piece of information, but I am clearly losing it, like, breakdown. She's like, look.
Yeah. The grimace that she makes in this one kind of like squeezed in panel here. Very, very terrifying. Look.
Yeah. She's like, nah, bitch. If there's a rule that doesn't exist, bring it here. But no, there is nothing that you can bring me that I can't change. And she says that as she cuts off Gina's arm. Her left arm is severed. And she's like, yeah. Yeah. You're an external targeter. That means your powers can't affect yourself. People change, and your mind is bound by that rule, aka me. And then she like has a moment of terror, like she senses something, and Gina's gigantic blade hat, this fucking UFO she hurled, cycles back and just rips straight through Change, completely bisects her through the abdomen, and Change is like quietly impressed. She's like, she sacrificed her arm to make this move happen. Like, that was calculated. But on the surface, she's like, I finally took a hit. Nice damage. Quite a change you just inflicted.
Waka waka.
You would have killed any other UMA doing something like that. But I am the rule of change, which means that even that attack of yours can be changed into power. And she goes into change phase 3. And she's like, so how about we bring in some change, Gina? And Gina's silent for a quick sec. And then she smiles. And she's like, what a quirk of fate this is. The old me was terrified of those words and fought against them. I fell in love with someone who never changed. And I lived my whole life refusing to accept any of my own changes. And then it only hit me in my final moments. Right now, I get how I felt back then.
Shut up!
Yeah, Change is like, stop!
No dramatic speech! Nope, shut up!
She's just attacking her, and Gina has a shield. She's made one for herself, and she's like, yeah, I bet it does disgust you. This feeling is universally known and constantly shown. So tell me, do you like things that change or things that stay the same more? And Gina shouts out, because I like either or. And she forms a fist with her unchange. And Change is like, this is a weird series to have to refer to characters by. Change is like, you're an idiot. You can't make a fist with your soul. You're an external targeter. It doesn't work like that.
I'll catch her punch dramatically.
Yeah, she's going to catch her punch. And instead, Change's hand just start ripping apart. Like, it is being shredded by this. And then we just see the fist connect with her face. And Gina shouts out, you don't get to decide what my rule is. No matter how much their form changes, a person's feelings, their resolve, their soul will never change, even if that person were to die right here and now. So, very cool.
It's a very satisfying punch.
Yeah.
Big ol' whack right in the middle of the 2 pages. This is a nice transition into this fight. I hope we get, at least a good one more chapter out of this. If this is how, like, the individual fights are going to go down now, where it's like, hey, we would do quickly cut between them. As long as they get at least this amount of focus, that's
Yes.
all I need. That's all I've wanted from this whole time, from the moment I was like, I don't know how much focus these fights are going to get.
Yeah, look, I just want characters that aren't Fuko and Andy to get a real focus. And we got that with Nico, so I feel confident we are going to get something. Like, it feels like the ace in the hole here is Injustice. It is getting that online. And that might be like the bomb-ass Injustice moment where like Injustice activates and ends all the fights at once. But seeing how the characters survive to get to that point is going to be worth it, even if that is just like an I win button for everything.
Yes. And I did like a lot of the little things that you were noting of, and early on when we cut to the other fights, that little reaction between Shen and Mui was very sweet.
Yeah.
Where she's like this old woman now, but she just smiles at him. He's like, "Oh, you're cute."
Why? By the way,
sweet.
Why am I so like? Maybe I said it before, but I feel like I forgot. It was like while I was reading this chapter, I was like, "Oh yeah, obviously Fang will come because he can't be altered by time." Like I was like, why did I not immediately make that connection before? And you know what? I did eventually. So to everybody else who's much smarter than me, I'm sorry. I just caught up to what is very clearly being set up here. But good chapter. I think it's time for some blue box.
Yes, chapter 169, Your Stamp. Last time, some asshole lured Taiki into the storage shed and then locked him in there to prevent him from having sweet times with Chinatsu after he had very, very triumphantly defeated the basketball team in a very fair free throw contest. Definitely fair. So we start off this chapter with Taiki pounding on the door of the storage shed, trying to have someone let him out, and he realizes that his chance to have a cute, fun festival experience with Chinatsu is slipping away because, of course, this is the only chance that they're going to have where they're both in the school together while dating. So he's losing his chance. Cut to Chinatsu, who is taking off her cat costume. She's finishing up for the day.
Poor
and,
Chinatsu.
yeah, she realizes like Taiki never found me. He said he would find me and he didn't. So she gets on her phone and she texts him and is like, "Hey, where are you?" And then she goes to the haunted house that his class is set up, asks where he is, and they're like, "Oh no, he's not here. I think he went looking for you somewhere." So she realizes like, "Oh, this is kind of weird." Her phone rings. She answers it. It's like, "Oh, Taiki," and it's not Taiki. It's Hina, and it's because Taiki doesn't have his phone with him. He left it in the class somewhere, and so Hina picked it up and then called him and is like, "Yeah, he left it here in the waiting room. He's not here." So she starts running around, realizing like something's
Something's up.
off here. She starts running around, going through the hallway, and she's like, "This is not right. Taiki doesn't just go radio silent. He's usually very on top of things." She knows her man. It's very cute. And she's also like, "We also promised we would meet up after our shifts were done. So the fact that he's not around means that something is wrong. He would not break his promise."
Yes. It's always nice to see characters, even like, especially teenage young love characters who are just like, "No, I know this person well enough." Like, usually you have a lot of insecurities about people. So it's always nice to see someone be like, "No, I know the character, like the content of this person's character. They're not just going to suddenly not contact me."
Chinatsu heads into the gym, and Nagisa and the manager are there. And of course, they remember that Taiki took part in that free throw contest. And they see that she's distressed because she's been running around. She's starting to like sweat and breathe heavily. And they're like, and she's like, "Have you seen Taiki?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he went that way before." And I do like that there's a little bit of insight from the two of them where they're like, she was really looking forward to today.
Yeah. Ninja point out, someone in the Discord noted that in all this attempts to, keep Taiki from creating these memories, people are also keeping Chinatsu from being able to create these memories.
Yeah.
She's the third-year student here.
That's right.
This is her only chance to get to do this.
So we follow Chinatsu outside, and we get to see the person who did this to Taiki. It's just some guy who she identifies as Fujiki. And he's like, oh yeah, it's good that you remember who I am. We have been in the same class since we were in first year together. Yeah. Hey, you want to come check out the stage with me? And she's like, I'm looking for someone right now. And so she's like, yeah, I'm looking for someone. And so he says, oh, you're looking for someone? Yeah, second year, my boyfriend. And so she says, oh, you mean Taiki Inamata? Yeah, I saw him. He was walking around holding hands with a girl. They seemed like really close. And I don't know, it seemed kind of weird to me, but he looked like he was having fun. So, no need to worry about him. It's like, and then Shinatsu, my girl, she looks this boy dead in the eyes and just not even like angrily, just sadly almost.
It's so disappointed of an expression. Like, it is the closest I think we've really seen her to like almost anger. Really, I guess we have seen her angry before, but it's just an expression we don't get to see her have. She's usually not like so strong with this kind of like expression.
She just says, why would you lie like that?
Yeah.
And this stupid boy says, oh, I'm not lying. And she says, yeah, he wouldn't do that. Taiki wouldn't do that. And she's just like, yeah, but without doubt. And so this dumb boy lets the keys to the shed that he locked Taiki in fall out of his pocket.
Motherfucker put his keys halfway into his pocket or something.
Oh, like, no!
How do keys fall out of your pocket from above? Like, well, what happened? I can understand falling through a hole in your pocket, but it's always like Ant-Man was inside pushing them out or something.
It is.
You're not going to ruin Chinatsu's birthday or whatever this is.
This guy must have... I want to see the thought process that he had at every stage of this plan, because it is the most transparently... But then again, like, he's just some high school kid. Yeah, of course it's a dumb plan.
Yeah,
so
we're spoiled in that most of the characters we're interacting with have, like, strong emotional intelligence and, like, reasonable human, like, actions and responses. And we forget that, like, sometimes characters in this world are allowed to just be, like, weird, stupid teenagers where you're just like, why the fuck did you, like... I could see a kid who would do something like this. And, like, this is the thing that's going to haunt him every night for the rest of his life. He's like, why the fuck did I lie to Chinatsu and lock Taiki in that storage closet? Like, why the fuck did I do that?
He's going to be cursing himself when he's like 48 years old. Like, I just remembered a really dumb thing I did when I was a teenager. So she snatches the keys from his hand after he picks them up, runs for the storage door, and this guy just won't let it go. She's unlocking the door and goes, wait, Kano, wait, there's nothing in there. Like, come on, dude. When she gets in the
Chinatsu, the suspicious things are over there.
She gets in, and Taiki is doing push-ups because he decided, like, I realized I couldn't get out, so I decided to do some exercise.
I loved that for a moment. She is mad. Like, she does have an expression. She's like, what are you doing in here? When she just sees him doing push-ups. And it's when she looks at his hand, she's like, oh, no, he did try to get out. Like, he's not just...
He was panicking and did something so that he would stop hurting himself and panic. Yeah.
But for a quick moment, she's like, motherfucker, why are you doing push-ups in here?
So, yeah, he had to explain himself, and he does a lot with, like, a smile on his face. Like, yeah, the door wouldn't open. I tried pounding on it. They're just a little red. And then she immediately is, like, stooping down next to him to look at him. And this dumb boy, this stupid Fujiki, is just standing there in the doorway. And Taiki says, hey, you're the one who told me to come in here. did you also lock me in here? And Fujiki says, that's your fault. I've liked Furano since I was a first year. And
it gets so much, like, if I had been this guy and Shinatsu had opened the door, I'd have been like, all right, I'm going to go home, pack a duffel bag, hop on a train. I'm going to see Denver sounds like a good place to start. Like, I would not have hung around for the fallout from all of this. I would have been running from this situation. I would have been, like, stealing a bike. I'd be like, whatever I have to do to get
I have to leave. There's an angry basketball player after me.
I have to get as far away from this situation as possible immediately.
I have to leave. There's a talented female basketball player after me. Oh, which one? Shinatsu Kano? Oh, the girl who's been on all those magazines? She's great. What did you do to her? Gets kicked off the train.
Oh yeah, like that's where you tell the she shanty stories where it's, a bunch of people in a boat. Like, how did you wind up here? Like, I tried to ruin Shinatsu Kano's last birthday.
Yeah, get him!
Yeah, throw him off the boat. Don't let Davy Jones settle him.
So Chinatsu looks at Fujiki with somehow an even more disappointed expression. Like she's looking at him like he just confessed to murdering a puppy. And then she says, I don't care about whatever feelings you have for me. That's no excuse for what you did. I will never forgive you for this. Calm as the grave, yeah. She says all of this.
It's very strange to read for me because I'm so used to like characters having such loud, strong emotions. So I kind of start to read it in my head and I'm like, no, that's not how Chinatsu's doing it. There's no exclamation points. She's very coldly, very calmly telling this dude like, fuck you. I will not forgive you for this. Yeah. You're an asshole.
So finally, Fujiki apologizes, and then he's just kind of like lingers in the doorway after that, and Taiki has to go like, you can leave.
I would love... See, here's the thing. The way I would write this scene, I would then extend it for another 20 minutes of this guy being like, I kind of feel like I don't want to leave now. Like, I'm just going to stay. Do you mind if I just hang around here for a little bit?
I don't want to see you.
I could turn around, but I do want to stay right here until my Uber can come. It's going to be a little bit.
I told him to meet me at the storage and I locked Taiki and Amade. Thankfully, he had no follow-up questions. Chinatsu, after the guy leaves, takes Taiki's hands in hers. She's very upset. She like lets all of her actual feelings finally show now that the guy's gone, and she apologizes, presumably because it took her a while to find him.
It's also her first concern, especially after she saw his hands. She asked him, "Can you still hold a racket?"
Yeah, and she's just going to mess you up for badminton. Yeah.
She's legitimately very concerned about him getting injured or something like that. So like
I wonder why the character who had a sports injury is worried about her boyfriend having an injury that prevents him from training.
Yeah, I think that's very, very cute, very, very adorable. It's just like, the first question somebody asks a situation like this can usually be very telling. So I think it means a lot that she's like, are you still like, you didn't hurt your hands too much?
Yeah. So Taiki says, like, I've never seen you angry before. And she says, well, of course I'm angry. You mean a lot to me. Aww. And Taiki does have a moment where he's like, I probably shouldn't feel happy about this. But, I mean, like, because he was kind of chilling out by the time that she did arrive. He had calmed down. All the fear had gone away. And the fact that she showed up and, dispelled the whole problem of, like, oh, we're not going to have time together. That's no longer a worry for him. So yeah, I kind of get where he's coming from. Like, oh wow, she really cares about me, and that makes me happy. Yeah. But then he realized, like, oh right, there was a concert that we wanted to go to. We've got to go and enjoy the culture festival. I've got one stamp left for the rally, which is just the cat, and I'm sorry I was never able to find you. And he thinks to himself, a mysterious power was thwarting me. To which I say, yes. All the horny boys in your school.
Every dickhead guy in your school who decided to ruin both of your fucking lives. Well, I shouldn't say ruin your lives, but fuck up your day and your chance at making memories off of some weird jealousy that they don't like that you have a cute girlfriend. It's very weird of them.
So, in a very sweet moment, their hands are still holding together because like he started to lead her out of the storage shed. She lifts his hand up and she kisses his hand and she says, "Here's your stamp." Oh,
It's very,
it's
very
all
sweet. Yeah.
it's all gonna be okay, guys. And which means so she she blushes and then she's like, "Yeah, so you got all the stamps." And Taiki's also like blushing too, but he's like happy blushing, like, "Oh, it's my hand." And then he's like, "Wait, why are you blushing? You did that." She's like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
So then they just hold hands and like, "Hey, let's go have fun." And we get this kind of like 1 1/3 page shot of the two of them going and enjoying the festival together. And they're like, "Hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And there's a joke that we end on where Junatsu recommends, "Oh, we should do the free throw contest the basketball team's putting on today." He's like, "No."
I do think that's a very funny joke to end it on. It's just like, oh, let's do the basketball free. No, anything but that, please.
So we we are not necessarily done with the school festival arc here, but it's good to know that of the three couples that we're following, Junatsu and Taiki stronger than ever, and that's very good to see.
It's very
nice to see we can have little dramas with them that do not involve them in any way possibly breaking up.
Yes. Strong agree. Really, really good. Really, really cute chapter. Nick, it's Boruto time.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, Chapter 15, A Vibrant Life. So last time we found out that off-page, Gaara had just been defeated, and we get to see a bit of how that happened, which is that the Moegi tree person fought Gaara and Shinki, his adoptive son, and some other people. And so
Nick, these are all essential characters to the Naruto verse. You're saying you don't remember all of what's his fuck's kid teammates' names?
There is a guy who's got a headband of some sort that's just over his eyes. And what appears to be a female character who seems to get a little bit more focus than him. I'm going to like find out that she's like some prior established Tsunagakure character or some point.
So the team members are Araya and Yodo.
Wow.
That's some real fucking like Star Wars like naming convention. You get down the line like, Yodo, fucking Araya.
This must be something that's been explored more in the Boruto anime, because there's so many more stories that they've done in that one. Probably brought up
excuse me, Nicholas Freeman. The character of Yodo, which is the girl, by the way, did not call that. She premiered in episode 55 of the anime, but only chapter 3 of the manga.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Fair enough.
Yodo has been around forever, really, when you think about it. An OG.
Right, fine. That makes her a memorable character. So things are not going bad for Shinki and Yodo and Araya. So Gaara has them all just in like his sand cocoon things and is just like, just go over there. I'm going to transport you out of here. Slowly, presumably, because they're just there for this whole conversation, just like 10 feet behind him and not getting further away after he tells them, I'm getting you out of here. So it's too dangerous and stuff. And also he's already wounded. So the Moegi girl is like, hey, if you're not going to resist, I could just like let them go. And now finally Gaara starts to send them away while more like claw grimes come after him. And then Shinki goes, Pwah! And some of his magnetic particle powers kick in. He's got like iron sand powers of some kind. And so he puts Gaara in a protective cocoon and says, you are needed for the future. And then one of the claw grimes bites him and trees him. And so Yodo is like, no, Shinki! And Shinki has plenty of time to go, don't mind me, go! Tell Uncle Kankuro what's happened! And then he turns into a tree, but he keeps on extending his hands while he's in the tree, keeping Gaara inside the iron, sand, magnetic particle stuff, while Gaara has a chest wound.
Yeah, it looks like he has some like he ate too much red meat and he's got some heartburn or something, and then he just got sealed cryogenically at that point. Like, ooh, could you make me look a little more heroic than this? I kind of look rather weak and at my worst right now.
So it turns out this isn't just a physical cocoon that he's put Gaara in; it's a sealing jutsu. I guess
a little air hole, or what's the?
It's a sealing jutsu.
What's the thing that's hanging off of Gaara's butt? Like, is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
So he's alive, presumably, and trapped in there, and the jutsu persists even when Shinki has been treed. But there's kind of a problem with his plan, which we find out later. So Kankuro basically just like finishes telling all this to Shikamaru, and this annoys me so much. So he tells this to Shikamaru, who, of course, if we recall, is Kankuro's brother-in-law.
Yes.
Because Shikamaru and Tamari got married.
Yes.
And at the end of their conversation, after telling him what has happened to Gaara and to Shinki, could you keep this from Tamari for now? Don't want her to get worried.
I look, Shikamaru better be fucking lying. Because if you're not gonna tell your fucking wife about that shit,
brother.
Yeah. No, fuck you. That's some fucking raw deal shit. Yeah, Kankuro got to fucking hear about it.
The only way that I would be even remotely okay with this, because I am willing to place money on the expectation that Shikamaru is just going to not tell Tamari, because if he does, that would involve a female character from the first series doing something in Boruto. But the only way I would be okay with this idea, and if he were to keep it from her, is if she finds out later and then gets mad at him about it.
It should be like, oh yeah, you remember Shikamaru's like total fucking descent of a character once he took over as Hokage? He just started to be shitty, everyone disliked him, and his wife left him, like,
yeah,
or like at least damaged their marriage to some extent.
Just like Shikamaru having to explain himself later. It's like, well, Kankuro asked me not to. And she's like, oh, well, if Kankuro asked you not to tell me, then sure. God. So
I'm glad you trusted my brother over me, your fucking wife.
Your fucking wife.
I'm sure glad you're fucking Kankuro so much, because that's not going to be happening with me anymore. Like, what do you...
God. So
go live at his place.
Sarada is there too, and she's like, "Oh my god!" So we're gonna start seeing more of these tree people. And Shikamaru's like, "Yeah, potentially." So if Boruto contacts you, let me know, because I want more of his intel. And so they're like, "Okay," and then we see the Shinki tree person who is named Ryu. At least all these names are simple. So I love as well that Jura says, because Ryu's like, oh, is that my name? He's like, that's right. I came up with it. Is he proud of that? Why does he say that?
It says right there, a translation, Ryu can mean a grain of salt, or a grain of sand. So my guy's, yeah, he's being a little pithy. He had a little bit, he was like, I'm going to be a little poetic today. You're going to be a grain of sand. You get it? Because you're the son of a guy who controls sand. You kind of control sand. I mean, not you, but like someone got made into a tree and that birthed you. So you get what I'm saying, right?
The Moegi tree person, whose name I have not memorized, says, what the? And I want to explain that this is a very confusing sequence, because Ryu in one panel is saying, you know me well, Elder Drew, and I'm quite taken with this name. And then the Moegi tree person goes, with no context, with no sound effects or any kind to indicate she is reacting to anything except Ryu talking. What the? And then Ryu is cut to again and is now holding up a finger like, shh, be quiet, which he was not doing in the previous panel. And he says, a moment, please, dear elders. and then some iron sand comes off of his body and goes down behind him. So this whole thing that he reacted to first, I guess, we don't see him reacting to it. We just see people reacting to him reacting to it, which is a great way of storyboarding your manga.
It does feel like those panels should have been like at least flip-flopped. So he's like, oh, I sent something. Let me deal with it. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you doing, bud? You're a fucking baby reacting to this.
Yes. So some of Shinki's iron magnetic sand abilities go down into the little cube near him and pull out Code.
This is so
just
fucking
voip
funny
him
to
out.
me. Because
Our boy Code is back.
he gets treated with no respect in this chapter.
None.
He is like, they could have yanked him out by his foot and it would have been less degrading than the way it feels like they pull him out of this and just hang him there by his neck. He's just kicking his little leg. Like, man, let me go. I'm like, this man was the main antagonist to this series. They never really dealt with him. They just whooped his ass like 4 times in a row.
Just immediately just demoted him. Just straight up. Like, he is the third most, possibly fourth most important antagonistic force in Boruto now, depending on how you count Kawaki and Ada, basically.
This is like Team Rocket by like episode 5 of the anime, like where they were just like, we can't, they're not serious. These are fucking goobers. Like, that is what has happened to Code at this point. He is just a cartoon character to laugh at.
So Ryu reacts with some concern of like, yeah, this guy, who is he? And Jura says, no matter, release him. We kind of owe our existence to him. And Ryu goes, wow, really? Just drops him on the ground. And then Jura says, what are you doing here? And Code says, why are you just standing here? Why aren't you trying to devour Otsutsuki? And Jura's like, we're getting to that. But we got some other stuff we're dealing with, okay? We're working our way.
We all decided to have personal vendettas against one person in particular we got to deal with.
We're all catching up on Game of Thrones. I know that it like ended before we were all born, but we missed out on all of that. Can you imagine that? Just like not being around for that zeitgeist? We've got so much to catch up on. I hope that it ends strong.
Yeah, so we're going to open up r/Game of Thrones and we're going to sort by oldest. And we're just going to work our way through the threads. It's going to be real exciting. We're going to get a finger exactly on the cultural pulse when this thing ended.
So, wait, you're going to just go through the Reddit? You're not going to watch the series? I don't feel like paying for HBO Max.
Oh, God. Another service? I can't. I can't remember all of them.
Man, remember when you could just, like, go to Netflix? You don't remember that!
It's like, look, you don't understand. I gotta spend a lot of my time coming up with, like, fun, poetic names for my new team members who could literally show up fucking whenever. Ryu was not planned. I don't want to say you're an accident, my guy. He wasn't, like, he just showed up. We had to, like, oh, shit, we need a new bed. Like, I mean, we could just make them out of fucking nothing, I think. I think we're essentially gods, but, like, it's still, like, a planning thing, you know?
God. So Jura says, like, hey, we know you want to kill Boruto, so why don't you just go kill him? I mean, Kawaki's good enough for all of us. And Code says, like, I'll be the one to decide who I'm going to kill. You guys just concentrate on devouring Otsutsuki. And while we're at it, don't you forget that the chakra fruit's mine. I will become a new Otsutsuki and inherit Ishiki's will. And Jura's like, ah, yes, a chakra fruit. A mass of highly dense energy and the genetic information of all life on a planet. You know, the way people talk. Just...
Yeah. This guy needs a voice. We need to do some, like, I don't know what he's got. He's got some strong, like, bad millennial fashion energy to him. The stupid haircut. Like, what looks like
not even hair.
Yeah, like, yes, that's fucking straps or leather or some shit. And, like, just an obscene amount of eyeliner. Just, like, really highlighting everything on him. He's just got such a presence.
I like how we spend so much time dunking on Code's appearance that when all these other characters who have straps as part of their bodily aesthetic showed up, we were just kind of both like, yeah, sure. And just didn't really comment on it very much.
We didn't talk about it. The new guy's got like half of his zipper undone. Like his pants are just kind of like hanging like half hog open at the top. And it's just like, yeah, whatever, man. Everyone's kind of stupid in this place. Like one person.
I kind of feel like Ryu has the best design of all of them.
That's not really that bad. Again, like, it's never really explained by the Moegi one. Looks like a fucking jester. She didn't look like a jester. Like, where did this giant stupid hat come from?
Oh, God. I think it's because none of them have hair.
But the Code one has a beard. Or not the bug one, rather.
Oh, the bug one.
The bug
yeah, you're
one
right. That is a weird inconsistency that he has a beard. Yeah.
It should be. It would have been very funny if it was just a big leather strap.
So, anyway, Jura says all of this and is like, oh, I wonder what happened if we divine trees ate the fruit. Yeah. And then Code's like, you're not thinking of doing that, are you? You're not thinking of defying me? You need to be taught what pain is. Now, your name is Code. Pain was a much better character, Code. So he's
like, damn, I wish Code mattered for more. Like, I wish there was a way to work Code into things a bit more frequently.
So he slashes the ground to make a claw mark so that he can stick his hand through it. And of course, all the tree people have claw marks as just part of their bodies. So he makes this hand come up and go, ah! And presumably this is happening very quickly. I have to assume he's not just like very creepily going, I'm gonna get your nose!
This is like some fucking Are You Afraid of the Dark, like kid scare level shit. Like it's like, my hand's coming out of your belly. Like fucking, he should have gone for the throat, my dog. He has straps way closer to vital organs. Just what is this?
Have it come out of his head. Come on.
Yeah, fucking like teleport to the back of his stupid like frohawk of that. Just like slash the fucking back of his neck or whatever.
We see that like he comes out of the bottom of the guy's Birkin here. Like it just, I don't know what the word is.
His poncho? I don't know
poncho.
What the fuck.
The bottom of it. He's got like a good 2 feet. He's got to move his hand up. Your target is 0 inches from the nearest claw mark, dude.
You could shoot. I assume it works for the inside of the claw marks as well. Like, could you not have just like appeared out of the inside of his fucking jacket and like stabbed him in the neck or something? Like, Code's an idiot is what I'm saying.
He is. So Jura uses that sniper power that he has and just looks at the claw coming out of him and just blows Code's hand off. We are on chapter 3 and there are 2 people's arms that have come off this week. So
it's a good week for Nick. He's eating.
Man, I'm eating. Code, his hand has been blown off and at least he reacts like it matters. Like this is... He's like rips his hand and is like, ah! And of course speed lines are behind him when he does.
What? You couldn't do a panel in Boruto without a couple of speed lines. Let us know something exciting's happening.
Jura has gone from a 0 to a 0.1, by the way, in all of this.
I love that there's just a panel of Code screaming like, ah! Like, again, this dork ass loser just continuously finds ways to just get thoroughly embarrassed. Like he's not even just getting shit stomped now, he's losing limbs in the process.
So Jura says to Code,
I am truly grateful to you, Code. You bestowed upon us the ability to think freely. Thanks to you, we now enjoy glorious days full of stimulation. I think your life lacks a wee bit of motivation, so out of respect to you, I believe I shall assign you a task.
And he basically just says, kill Boruto and his buddies. Like,
he's like, Boruto and his friends, if you could just deal with them, and we'll deal with the stuff that's actually kind of significant.
So Code just like, is grimacing like, ow, my hand and stuff. And Drip says, if he does this for them, then he'll give him the chakra fruit. He's like,
does that not inject some color into your faded life?
This character is so funny because he's so like flamboyantly coded in his speech, but in his expressions, he's a robot. It's just like it's very much like if like James Spader's Ultron didn't have couldn't express anything physically, but was still just like, all right now, get out of here, you sassy little lady. We got things to do, but just very straight face the entire time.
Code summons a claw mark to bind his arm wound, I guess. So he does that and goes, ah, damn it. And then I love this bit because Mamushi, the bug one, just goes, huh, I don't know why, but when I see you suffer, I feel great.
Yeah, that is like a fun choice. It's like, I don't know, on like a subconscious level, I enjoy seeing you get punished like this.
So Code's like, you don't need to tell me twice. I'll do it. I'll kill Boruto and his comrades, and in return, by any means, I'll have you hand over the chakra fruit. Which, yeah, I'm sure these villains will definitely keep their promise. So thanks for, showing up, demanding things, trying to force your way to getting things, and then when you're made a counteroffer being like, yeah, but I'm definitely the one still getting my way here.
It's very funny. My dude showed up, tried to be sneaky, got immediately caught, tried to attack somebody with a sneak attack, lost his hand, was just bluntly told, like, hey, you're kind of like a boring-ass loser right now. Why don't you do something fun for us? And then it cuts to him, and he's like, hey, but don't mess with me, because next time, who knows how round 2 goes, like, motherfucker blinked and blew off your arm, like... You suck, dude. You can't threaten these people.
And he even tries to threaten them while he's fading away into his claw marks, and his mouth is below those claw marks. I don't know how they can hear him. So he leaves, and then Ryu, who is 5 minutes old, says, "What a nasty creep! Can I kill him the next time he shows up?"
Jura's like, "Go on ahead."
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't really matter to me. It's so fucking funny, man. This manga's at its best when people are just shitting on Code.
So Jura instructs Ryu, like, there is a target that you want to devour, look for it. And of course, he just immediately is like, oh, it's obviously the 5th Kazekage. Yeah. And he also knows, like, yeah, he's been sealed away by Shinji's jutsu. I have the same chakra and stuff. I could just find him and release it, and then I'll devour him.
Yeah.
So, there you go. There's more to the chapter. Boruto is just hanging out on Mount Ninjamore by Konoha. Kawaki shows up and bothers to put his hands in his pockets while he approaches Boruto, because of course he fucking does.
He's so cool, Nick.
The two of them try to out-cool each other. Like, Boruto's not looking at Kawaki, and they're both, like, making all these quips with no emotions on their faces. And so Boruto's like, why haven't you attacked? And Kawaki says, why haven't you told Konoha the truth? And Boruto just says, it wouldn't cause any good. It would create division and confusion, and I'd like to avoid that. Right now, at least, Konoha is functioning normally. Honestly, I liked it better when we didn't know his reasons.
Yeah.
Like, this is just dumb. This is just the most blatant, we need to maintain the status quo explanation ever. Just because he doesn't even really properly explain himself. So he says that he's strong now. Cool.
Yeah.
And then Kawaki says, but your things aren't still with that Momoshiki bastard, though, are they? From what I saw earlier, you still can't control your karma. And Boruto says, like, yeah, when my teacher and I fought Code together, I tried to use karma, and I sensed something similar to the feeling I got whenever Momoshiki possessed me. It's a feeling where I stopped being who I am and started dying while still conscious and aware, and I haven't used karma since then. And Kawaki's like, well, what brought it on? And Boruto says, I don't know, but it's possible that activating karma will cause him to emerge. And Kawaki's like, damn it, things haven't gotten worse then. And Boruto says, don't you realize this, Kawaki? The divine tree people are no ordinary enemy. I can't take Jura down by myself. I need your help. And Kawaki's like, don't change the topic. We're not done discussing Momoshiki. So, and he's like, but the divine trees are more important. If I lose it and run amok, you should kill me. Why isn't he trying to kill him now? So
They're bros, Nick. It's supposed to be like, that's why Boruto didn't turn him in, because deep down he still loves his bro. And his bro is like, you're still also my bro. But I gotta kill you, bro. But I also gotta kill myself, bro. Like, it's deep.
Boruto reveals to Kawaki that Amato has been lying to him and hiding information from him, that he has adjusted your defensive and regenerative abilities to above maximum levels, which is a great way of phrasing anything, and then says also he's put limiters on your offensive abilities. And Amato is spying on all of this and is like, how did he find out? And then he realizes,
I wish they hadn't said that.
Oh, damn, I shouldn't have said that out loud. And then he's like, damn it, what's his motive for saying this to Kawaki? And Boruto says, well, Amato needs your karma for his own self-serving purposes. I bet he thought Code would attack you. And if you think I'm lying, just ask him. I'm gonna go. And Kawaki says, I ain't changing my opinion. Otsutsuki are evil, need to be exterminated. Those divine tree people, it's the Otsutsuki's fault for bringing the Ten Tails. Everyone has to be eliminated, including you and me. But we'll start with those pesky divine trees.
So
I think
scary.
Gordon says pesky first.
Yeah.
And then we get, mirroring Dutch angles as the two of them look at each other on opposite pages. And Kawaki says, and I'll do it by any means necessary, even partnering with you. And Boruto says, all right, you better not weigh me down, bro. And Kawaki says, back at you, jerk. Oh, these guys are so cool because they won't make a single facial expression. Oh.
Yeah, this is some very bro-tastic sort of energy, which I generally did enjoy previously with Boruto. Like, it was one of the cuter aspects of Kawaki and Boruto's relationship, is like the shameless amount of like, all right, bud, you're gonna do this, bud. Like, very like fast and furious. Like, you know, I'm sure some motherfucker on Twitter screenshotted this, posts on there, and it's like, the aura, it's crazy or something like that. People are allowed to enjoy that. The chapter's just kind of weird and confusing at the start. Like, so fucking Gaara's sealed in a magnetic sand cage. I guess that stops his heart from bleeding out. Like,
yes.
They don't explain that particularly well. And I feel like there's something else that just kind of doesn't get explained either. But the bit with Code was legit funny. Like,
oh yeah,
if you were like, we'd already kind of started to like these villains, like when they had like the bookshop discussion and everything. But I think just showing that they're like, hey, remember Code? He's a fucking dork-ass clown loser now. Watch me blow up his hand. Like, it's like, cool. All right, you know what? Fine. Like, if he sucks now, then like, let's deal with these new guys and let's do something with them.
Okay. We've got so many chapters to cover. And
holy shit. I did not realize how late it was.
Chainsaw Man, chapter 181, Trees on the Mind. Asa and Yoru are, of course, trapped in the realm of the aging devil. So Asa walks around and is like, okay, don't panic, because remember the Eternity Devil. I just need to perceive this space as mine, and I'll turn the world into a weapon and get out. And then Yoru is there and just points her hand at her head and goes, bang! And Asa's like, what are you doing? Because that's my body you're pointing at. And Asa says, I can't use the Gun Devil's powers. I've tried to use them twice now. They haven't worked. She picks up a twig and goes, twig sword. This is not going to work. We can't use my powers to turn this place into a weapon. It's not going to be like the Eternity Devil. So Asa asks, like, well, what do we do then? And Yor just leans up against a tree and says, my power, I'm no match for the aging devil. So Asa wants to know, like, what's the plan then? And Yoru has nothing. She just, like, angrily punches the tree, which goes, ow! That hurt! And we zoom out a little bit and see that tree has boobs and a face. I
didn't even see the boobs.
They're not very good boobs. This is not fun.
Whoa! Nick, how dare you? All boobs are good boobs.
No, I don't know. They're made of wood. So both Asa and Yoru look at this tree person and go, ah! Asa runs away, trips right over Denji's body. It's great. Asa tripping again.
Yep.
The guy that she saw before says, like, oh yeah, I take it you saw a tree person. Yeah, so if you live here for 1,000 years, you can turn into a tree like them. Then, when the tree rots away into soil and your mind and body have fully become one with nature, you can return to your body in the real world. Doesn't even say that you'll, like, escape from here and be alive again. Just says you go back to your body, which could also just be dead for
yeah,
that.
I mean, to experience what has to be sort of like eons in this, like, it takes a while for a tree to just rot away, you know?
Absolutely. And there's all sorts of, all these trees, as it turns out, in this forest are just people trapped here. That we get to see all their creepy faces in the bark. Yoru takes over Denji, Asa's body, rather, and looks down at Denji, goes, this is your fault, and just starts punching him. And she's like, I've got hands now, I can punch you. She demands that Denji wake up and says, this is all your fault, that I'm here. Denji does come to, and this poor boy, this is the first time we've seen him since, he found out that Nayuta's dead. And he's like, yeah, everyone who gets involved with me winds up miserable. I'm sorry. I'm just going to stay right here, and I'm going to reflect on my mistakes until I turn to a big-ass tree, and that'll be my punishment for being a horny, empty-headed idiot. Aw. Yeah. Poor boy. And he's crying while he says it, and Yoru says, stop crying! I'm going to hit you! And he just apologizes again. Yoru gets a very distressed look on her face, and then reaches down, pulls Denji's arm out of the way, and bends down and kisses him. So Yoru has some very complicated emotions. That's the note we end the chapter on.
Yep. She's got a lot of feelings in there. Some people are a little upset, but I think it's just, I mean, we know that she realizes now that, like, affection motivates Denji. She's seen it. So she is manipulating Denji the same way she always has.
I don't even know if she's doing that. I think that she's might be very confused in this moment. But yeah, that's the note we end on. Astro Royale, chapter 26, combo attack battle. So Rary used her missiles to blow up.
We don't get. They don't do a combo attack battle.
They don't. Rary used her missiles last time to blow up the frozen water tornado thing. And then she calls on some more missiles and stuff. Himuro's group do a weird combo thing where they all grab onto each other and turn themselves into like a water jet thing and start flying around, and they're going to run off somewhere else, but they just kind of like escape to another part of the facility while Hibaru and everyone else come after them. They corner them, but there's a bunch of tanks and stuff, so Rary tries to summon her missiles, and then Hibaru's like, Rary, look around, there's like gas canisters all over the place. So if her missiles hit them, they're going to all get blown up. So that's no good. Meanwhile, Himuro's group are calling out like a big old thing of water, which blasts Rary and freezes her. So she's just kind of like out of the fight. Yeah. It looks like. That happens, and they're like, haha, I've taken care of the most important, annoying one. Kienpa uses her invisibility thing to try and figure out something out. Yeah, she's gonna like also see to Rary while she's invisible, I guess.
Yeah.
Himura just like, well, I'll take care of these three idiots first. The brat can wait. And they use this combo attack called Whiteout, where just like a bunch of wind and ice and water fly towards them, and it's like a huge blizzard bursts towards them. Ice is forming on Kuran and Tarasu and Hibaru. And so they're like, what do we gotta do? We need to do a combo attack too. And they're all like saying different things. Like Kuran is saying like, hey, give me your hand. Tarasu is saying we need to keep going or we're gonna freeze. Hibaru's like, everyone charge. They're all just saying different things, and so they're not coordinated. And Himura mocks them for that. And then Hibaru's like, oh, you're right. Thanks for the hint. All us siblings are all headstrong. We prefer one-on-one fights instead of combo attacks. And he just uses his Magnum Blast to punch the ground, makes the entire floor collapse under all of them, which scatters everybody. So they wind up in one-on-one confrontations instead. And so that's the situation. We get like a whole bunch of pages establishing that there are one-on-one fights. It's kind of unnecessary, the extent to how much we see these get established. So I feel kind of cheated by this because they made a big thing of like, oh man, these guys are so strong when they work together. And it's like, how are we going to do that? Oh, he's going to throw one punch and then we're going to stop having combo attacks to deal with. And it'll just be one-on-one fights. All right.
That
kind of removes the tension from the fight then.
It does, but at the very least, I'm excited to see the other brothers get to do something. This has really felt like a one-character show for a while, so like getting to see the other ones have to be the cool character, that'll be nice. Otherwise, kind of whatever, though. I don't care about this cop guy enough for this to be like a cool final bad guy showdown.
Let's move on to Hima-Ten, chapter number 15, Heroines Assemble! Last time, of course, Himari talked with Iamori about the fact that, he's got a crush on Kanai, and she says at the beginning of this chapter, like, yeah, I think you, could, get with her. Yeah. You guys, are comfortable around each other, you've hung out and stuff, so, there are possibilities here. But Iamori's like, yeah, but I can't just ask her out, because, consider, our friendship and how it stands here and everything like that. And Himari's like, just like, why are you only confident in yourself when it comes to house cleaning, basically? But she says, hey, you have different excuses to hang out with her, so you can use those. And she would also probably be willing to hang out with you with studying sessions and stuff like that, because her other friend is involved in stuff. And Iamori is like, you're saying some pretty smart things. And Himari says, I run my own business, and I also go to high school. I'm an icon. Good. It's good to have self-confidence. But she also says, I'm just always researching high school romance. Of course, it's part. She's got to know it for her marketing.
She's like, I got to know what teen girls want, ignoring that she's also a teen girl herself. But
I'm sure that helps.
Yeah.
While they're walking together, she spots Kanai and is like, hey, walk with us to the school gate. And then she mentions...
It's a great way to show off how good she is at that, by the way. She's just like, I see your crush right there. Hey, let's go walk together.
Yeah.
That's how easy
immediately
it is.
Demonstrates it. And Iamori is like, oh, wow, she's being my wing woman. All right, great. So Iamori and Kanai start talking a little bit. They're just kind of talking about the test that they took. And he's like, yeah, I think that I got the questions that you walked me through correct. And Kanai's really happy about that. But then they hear a bit of a commotion because Kana has shown up and she's drawing a lot of attention because, she's a pinup model. And there are some guys who are like, that's the girl who was in that magazine this week. Holy shit, Jesus Christ, she's so hot. And immediately, when she spots them, she's like, hey, Himari, just makes no big deal of it, comes up to them. And so they're asking what she's doing in town. She says, I had a gig, so I just dropped in. I wanted to hang out with you guys. And also wanted to give you this. And she has a copy of the latest magazine that she is in, and she wants to give it to Iamori, who is, established as, her fan now. And Iamori even says, I actually bought one because I knew you were in it, so I've got a copy at home already. I think you did a great job. It's like, oh, that's nice.
It's very, very sweet because, again, we know what the nature of what she produces is, and he is being, very appropriate and, not strange about it. He's like, I came and bought a copy already, and I think your work was really, really great. It's like, oh, this sweet and innocent way of complimenting someone and not making it weird.
Shocking amount of maturity for a shonen high school boy protagonist.
He isn't like,
not be like, oh, it was so
or I already have a copy. Ooh,
I hope she doesn't think I'm a pervert.
Yeah, he's just like, nope, I heard you're going to do it, so I bought one.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And she's really touched by this. She blushes a little bit like, oh, you found out. I kind of wanted to surprise you, but no, I'm really happy you liked it, so it's nice. And Himari clocks a vibe, of course, and she also remembers, wait a minute, Kana was interested in Iamori. Oh, no, and she starts piloting out, love triangles in her head. And she realizes, oh, I knew that if Iamori ended up with Kanai, that would be okay. I would just be able to support him. It wouldn't affect our professional relationship, and I could still be friends with Kanai. but I don't know how this is going to affect things if Kana is in the mix too, because it might affect my relationship with her. So, and I do appreciate that, like, we get that very, very quickly. Like,
Yes.
This is another aspect of this that I was not prepared for, and why this upsets her. But Iamori is, like, new to this. She doesn't know who this person is, and so very quickly off page, Himari explains it to her, and she's like, "Oh, okay, you're in the same agency. That explains why you're so cute." It doesn't explain why you're so cute. It explains that causative.
Well,
never mind.
If
So
you work at the same talent agency, you'd be like, everybody there is very attractive.
right, but I'm just saying the causative. Never mind. So then she's like, "Well, how do you know Iamori then?" And Kana, fortunately, is actually like prepared for this. She's like, "I'll just tell you." It's like, okay, so just kind of handled, and she does not bring up the detail that Iamori is working for Himari, which Himari is immediately grateful for, and she's like, "Oh, thank God she didn't say anything." And Kana's like, "I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say that. Like, that's obvious that I shouldn't bring that up. That, like, if you were upset that I found out about it, I'm not going to blab about it to someone else." So, but Kanai has gotten the main gist of the story, which was that Iamori ran into this stranger who was in distress and really helped them. And she's like, "Yeah, that sounds like something you would do." Aw. Then, just a lot of, like, supportive people in this chapter, because Kana's like, "You call me cuter, you're really cute too."
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're not pretending that, like, this character is not drawn just as traditionally attractively as
Yeah, I was gonna be like, why? Yeah, we can't all act like, and then plain Jane over here. Like, come
Right.
on, Hanoka is very cute.
Yeah, and so Kana's like, "I can't believe that someone as cute as you is also just in Himari's class." And she's like, "You don't need to, like, flatter me." She's like, "No, you're really cute. I'm serious." And Kana's like, "Oh, thank you." And just, like, all the girls just, like, being supportive, like, "No, you are very attractive." It's like, this is nice. And then she is also like, "Although, it's nice that you, like, are complimenting me that way, but the fact that you're doing it in front of Iamori is kind of embarrassing. You're gonna make me blush."
There was a moment there I was like, I mean, not for nothing. There is, like, a fourth wheel guy here that you're all just being like, "You're super attractive. You're super attractive" in front of. I understand Kana doesn't recognize, like, oh, you guys have, like, a thing yet. She doesn't, pick up on those vibes necessarily, but it's like, oh.
So Kanai chugs some water, and Kana goes, "Honoka, you're not allowed to say that," which I think is just, like, the very, like, because she said, "You're going to make me blush because you're saying how cute I am in front of this boy." Kana has, like, noted, like, I guess the fact that you have voiced it makes this more awkward now, basically. Yeah. So Kanai's got to go because she's got a shift to pick up, and she's like, "Oh man, I feel like I'm missing out now because, like, this gathering is happening and I have to just, like, leave it." Kana says, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to get used to saying them different things because I can't call them Kanai and Kana. I'm gonna have to, like, get used to calling her Honoka." Anyway, so Kana says to Iamori, like, you never mentioned her." And Iamori's like, "I mean, it's not like I'm gonna bring up a classmate the very first time I meet someone, that's all." But Himari immediately realized, like, oh, does Kana know that they're into each other? But Kana says, "Well, I guess I was kind of like an outsider when I met you, but this is the last day that's going to be the case because I've gotten a lot more gigs recently, and I decided to move to Tokyo in order to take them on, which means that I'm going to be around more. And I'm going to transfer you to your school." That's the note that we end on, is that she is transferring, which is, kind of the obvious next step from, like, she's transferred to Tokyo.
It was clear she was going to be a new member of the harem. So, fine chapter, fun, good stuff. Let's talk about Ichi the Witch. Shark magic!
Yeah! Seventh Hunt, the Hisame Magic Part 1. I forgot how the chapter opens with Descarus's version of events, where she's just drawing herself looking great in every panel, and every single thing that happens, every single time is like, "Thanks to my great plan, that idiot child Ichi caught the Akane-banashi."
He's always picking his nose while he's doing it.
And yeah, so yeah, Team Descartes is on its first mission to hunt the Hisame magic. But then she's not the POV character from that point. She's just doing that great little recap. It's Kamugi's chapter from here. And how, yeah, she's very uncomfortable with the situation because she is with this very weird male witch, the very selfish and amazingly talented Descartes, and also Aurora, who is just constantly creeping around Ichi and tries to be like, hey, you want to be friends? And freaks her out. And then we get a little, like, kind of just nice introduction to Kamugi. Like, say, hey, here's her stuff that she's got, including one of her possessions is mental readiness, with a note of not even close. She is not prepared for this situation. They are in the midst of travel. They're going to be not far from arriving where the Hisame is. And we also get like an establishment of like, hey, the best way to travel from place to place is to use Mirage Passage, which is go through mirrors. There aren't mirrors at every single place in the world. So anywhere that there is not a mirror station, if you have to get there, you have to travel, of course, from the nearest one. So then you just kind of have to like use more traditional means of travel. And she's like, what am I doing here? The fact that I'm interacting with Master Descartes is crazy. I've got no aptitude for offensive magic. I picked the Research Society because I just wanted to just be inside all day and not go out and fight. And now I'm in an anti-human hater magic squad. And the most terrifying thing of all is this weird guy who caught the Aurora magic, the first male witch in the world. And beyond even that, he's just crazy. He picks fights with them. He does shoulder throws. I have no idea what he is thinking. Mm-hmm. But Ichi has just asked her, like, hey, what's that bag you've got? And she's like, oh, it's a bag of holding, basically. It's got a spatial spell on it, so you can put bigger things inside of it and carry a whole bunch of things around. And he's, really fascinated by this. And he's like, oh, that'd be really useful for me to like carry my catches back from the mountain. I wouldn't have to make so many trips. And she's like, yeah, okay. And then she gets a cup of water and gives it to him, where after making some water come out of a little pen that she's got, very basic spell. And he's fascinated by it. He's like, oh, wow, this water's great. And she's like, yeah, okay. And then Ichi says, you're amazing. You can do all these kinds of magic and you teach me things. Which, of course, makes sense when the only other witch he's had a lot of interaction with has been Descartes, who just talks down to him the whole time.
Who's just like, you suck and you're a big loser.
And Kamugi's like, that's just a beginner level spell. I'm like nothing compared to everyone else. And, of course, we see that she's got very deep-seated, what's the term?
Self-esteem issues.
Inferiority complex.
Yeah.
Her whole family looked down on her and was just like, you're not suitable for this kind of thing. You're useless. And she starts to put herself down. But then Ichi says, I once heard a story. It's a blacksmith told me, which is that no matter how exquisite the blade, if you don't take care of it, you won't be able to cut jelly with it. But even the poorest swords, if you take care of them, if you give them a proper edge, they can slice through boulders. Basically, the worth of a tool is in how it's used. I was thirsty. You gave me water, and that made me happy. You were nice. I just wanted to thank you, and that's why I said what I did. And I meant you're an amazing person. Descartes isn't. She sucks. She's really smug.
Yeah.
And
I always walk over and she's drawing cartoons of me picking my nose.
Kamugi blushes after all this, and she's like, oh, well, I guess he's not actually all that scary. And after that, they're just like, start hanging out a little bit, and they're just talking, and it's nice. And then Descartes is hanging out on the other side of the cart, just by herself, and Aurora creeps over to her and says, you feeling left out? You want to join them? Don't even bother. There's nothing more awkward than a boss trying to intrude on the young new kid's gossip session. And Descartes takes a 3-point sprinter stance and charges into Ichi and is like, I want to join the gossip too! No regard for this at all.
I love that it's just a slow transition from sitting peacefully to 3-point stance to, I need to join in. I need to be part of the fucking, gossip, the social gossip that we're talking about.
That's just it. And then Ichi hears something, sticks his head out of the cart, and realizes like something happened. He's not sure what though. Somewhere further away, there is a girl who is being chased by creepy ice forest sharks. Oh no! And they got her dad. No, they got her mom. No, they're gonna get her. And she's running through the forest. The sharks are gonna get her. They're going to freeze her / eat her. She cries out for help from a witch, and Ichi appears, immediately casts Inazuri and blasts away the sharks. Grabs her, and yeah, she's safe.
If this gets, I know we shouldn't talk too high, but if this gets an anime, this moment where he just rides in with Inazuri behind him, it's going to look fucking cool.
Very cool. So, this girl, Chrissy, looks at Ichi and is like, "Oh, Lady Witch, you came." And Ichi's like, "I mean, maybe you shouldn't call me lady because I am like a boy, but I am a witch. I'm Ichi the Witch." And he strikes a big, cool hero pose while the sharks behind him are blowing up from Inazuri's power.
I love, like, they have, like, the fucking X's for eyes and everything.
Yeah, it's so they were so scared before. They're so goofy in this shot, and he's just like, "Wow, that's crazy. Hey, Kamugi, teach me more about these weird sharks." And just immediately, it's like, you're my tells me about stuff person now. So this was a nice chapter, getting to know Kamugi some more, and also just leading into the action phase of this hunt that they're on.
Yes,
excellent,
very, very fun and cool.
Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi, Chapter 17, Grand Cross. Kiyoshi just got done beating up Yusa, and then he made the big declaration of, "I don't want any part of being a Grand Cross if it's only decided by talent." So Sosuke looks all smug and stuff, and then like Shuten, meanwhile, is like looking like he wants to fight Kiyoshi as well, and then Kiyoshi goes, "Oh, I just kind of like lost it on this guy and beat the crap out of him, and then I had to declare I didn't want to be a Grand Cross when that's the entire reason I came here, and everyone wished me luck so that I could do a good job here, and it means I probably failed." No. But Sosuke steps up and says, like, "Hey, so he beat the guy up? That means he passes, right?" The elder that is overseeing everything looks at Shuten and at Yoko Ono and says, "Well, what do you guys think?" And they're like, yeah, I mean, like, I did say that was like the way that you would pass is by beating people up, but if you want me to, I can retest him. He really wants to fight Kiyoshi. Yoko Ono grabs him by his, I didn't even realize he had ponytails that long.
At first I was like, oh, he has a tail.
She grabs him by that and yanks him away and is like, "Yeah, old man Yana, he screwed things up here." So yeah, the headmaster considers this, and then Mr. Tosaka stands up. He is still very heavily injured from his fight with Yana. He says, like, "Please don't let Yana's failure of him stand. Rescind it. He is a man who carries the future of all exorcists on his shoulders. And look, if you'll take it in exchange, like, I will never take the GC test ever again." And the headmaster says, "Are you sure about that?" And Tosaka says, "I'm not joking here." The headmaster considers it, and he's like, "All right, those who pass the GC test this time are Sosuke Hitsuki, Mako Kusakari, Ginzan Tetsuyama," those two being Sosuke's teammates, "Jinta Kanatsuchi," that's the hammer guy, and Kiyoshi Harai. As of this moment, you 5 are hereby Grand Crosses. And as for you, Tosaka, you were so close. I have high hopes for next year. Aww. Afterwards, Tosaka and Kiyoshi talk a bit, and Kiyoshi asks, like, "Yeah, so you're going back to Dandelion Town," and it turns out there's been a development, which is that he is going to be working with a new team. Shuten made an arrangement so that he'll get to work with the Special Forces as an apprentice while he is still the head of the current team that he is leading. And Tosaka says that it's on the condition that if I fail the next year's test, I'm going to lose my job. Sosuke is walking by with his teammates, and he says, like, hey, that was really impressive of you, Tosaka. I'll be waiting for you at the top. Kiyoshi thanks Sosuke for his help, and he's like, what are you talking about? I was the one who said it. I just want to make sure they stuck to it. That's all. It's not like and Mako's behind him and just says like, just talk normally with him. And then she gets behind Kiyoshi and is like, hey, that gut punch you gave the old guy, that was hot. And then she says like, oh, and say hi to Akari for me. All right. They leave. And then as they're on their way, Tosaka is left to say goodbye to Kiyoshi. And he says, hey, next time that we meet, I'll be a Grand Cross. You'll be a Cross Paladin. It's a promise. And they shake hands on it. We cut back to Naraku City, where Akari is struggling against a big scary demon guy. And is like, shit, I told Kiyoshi I would take care of things while he was gone. And things are not going so well. And Nehan and Jackjo are hiding, like watching her try and fight these things. And the big scary demon is like, oh, wait, are these the strong ones? And starts going for them. Akari can't get to them in time. And then Kiyoshi shows up. He flies in from the sky, beats the thing in one attack, and goes, I'm back, everybody. And they ask how things went. He reveals that he passed the test. And they head back to, have some, food and stuff together. And in a very small panel, we learned that Akari and Mako were friends when they were kids. Okay.
Cool.
So just the tiny little panel. But the GC test is over, and we're moving on to another thing as we catch up with Mr. Yamada, the demon that we met in the very first chapter, who is eating with his family. And they hear on the news that a surface expedition has been decided upon by decree of the Demon Lord. And these three are the main targets. And it looks like Mr. Sakaki might be one of them. There's a character that I don't think we've seen before in the middle. Could be that really dickhead paladin. And then one of them is Kiyoshi. So Mr. Yamada Miya is like, oh shit, Kiyoshi's in trouble. And that is the chapter. Which definitely isn't fast forwarding towards the end right now.
Nope, don't worry about that.
Quinn, there was not actually a chapter of Marriagetoxin this week. There was just like a little illustrated encyclopedia thing. Just a little bit of a character focus on Teruaki, kind of like highlighting some stuff that he's done in the series and then like saying like, hey, this is what his day is like.
Yeah.
He thinks about Garo a lot.
Good for him.
Yep. Oh man, new Sexist chapter 71 as his big sister. So I kind of thought we weren't going to do this when we cut away, when we just completely ignored the whole thing where the girls were taking a bath together.
Nick, you do have to remember this is a harem manga half the time.
Half the time. And yeah, so dedicate the color page to them girls being naked. So they're in the bath to open the scene back up again after Sujita has just asked Suo what she thinks of Gakuro. And she immediately just was like, I'm not going to tell you. And she's just like, I told you that I liked him. Tell me, So she looks at Reina, who thinks of what to do. And Suo's like, we're best friends, right? And I'm like, are you? I don't know who this person is. So Ray, however, is like, look, Sujita's really serious about this. Why don't you just tell her? So also Shiroha's there, and she also agrees, like, yes, she should talk. And then, because there hasn't been enough fan service, Sujita goes, everyone grab her! And there's just a scene of all three of them just grabbing this naked woman in the bath, and she's objecting to it and everything like that. And eventually, finally, she agrees, like, fine, I'll talk. And she says, look, I kind of think of Yajima as, like, a cute little brother. I worry about him, and I'm concerned when he pushes himself too hard. Reina and Shiroha both, like, exchange a look of, like, we don't really believe you. Sujita, however, is like, that means you don't mind if I take my shot with him then. Good for her.
Yeah. She's like, all right, if you're the big sister, then I'm gonna call my shot.
She was like, I sort of saw something between you guys. I gave you a chance to tell me if you didn't want me to go after him. You said it was okay. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, and she's like, I'm set to help Gaku with strength training today. When I do, I'll make a pass at him. All right.
I love Suo having awkward to be like, you go, girl.
And then she's like, hold on, but he would never agree to that. And I think that it took me a second to realize what she was talking about. And then I was like, oh, Gakuro would be like, no, you don't need to help me with strength training.
Yeah. No, don't worry about it. I'll just do everything on my own.
And apparently this has all been set up ahead of time, so Tsuchita got convinced him of this. So Suo thinks of when Gakuro pushed himself too hard, I guess, again. And then Tsuchita's like, I'm going to do my best. And just when you thought that she was, had been sexualized enough in this, she shows up in not a lot of clothing to help out Gakuro.
This is absolutely athletic wear you can wear. This is, I think, about the legal limit to where it is technically considered still clothing.
Yeah, pretty much. So she is wearing a sports bra / tank top and is just on Gakuro's back while he's doing push-ups to add more weight in a way that seems very uncomfortable. She's got her knees in his spine.
Yeah, it's not great positioning. It doesn't help that she starts in like the on all fours pose as well. I'm like, come on, what is this?
So he's been doing quite a few push-ups. He's up to 87, and then she's like, his temp's probably running high because it's hot. And he's like, it's okay. You don't need to explain yourself to yourself, Sujita. It's fine. But Suo is passing by in the hallway and overhears them talking because Gakuro's like, are you okay, Sujita? My dude, she's sitting on you. What's wrong with you? So
yeah. I'm like, it's kind of cute that you're like, I hope this isn't too uncomfortable for you. Like, motherfucker, I'm the one sitting on top of you while you do push-ups. What are you talking about?
My 9th and 16th ribs feel like they're bending apart, but how are you doing? So Suo overhears this, and then Sujita is just like, speed up the push-ups. And then she's like discovering things about herself because she's like smacking him and is like, this is kind of fun. It's like, all right, it's okay. You're learning things about yourself, girl. Suo comes in. She is like ready to go to bed. And she's like, hey, can you not be too rough on our captain? And Sujita's like, yeah, okay. Did you need something? And Suo just hops onto Gakuro's back next to Sujita, and she's like, I'll just help you train since I'm here too. And Sujita's like, this isn't fair. We talked about this already. And Suo's like, oh yeah, but remember what I said, which is that I worry about him like my cute little brother. This is too much for me to overlook as his big sister. We have the chapter title. So she decided to have her cake and eat it too. Honestly, this is kind of like not a cool move by Suo.
No, this sucks. She sucks. This is a shit move.
This is not cool. Like, so they're like, all right, come on, let's count the push-ups and stuff. And
I believe this is intentional as a shit move from her though. Like she is about to get called out for it.
So they're like, all right, come on, Gakuro, we're both on your back. Start doing push-ups. Hey, Sujita, come on, count it. And so while they're doing it, Sujita like kind of bumps Suo, and she bumps her back, and they just start having a Keijo battle on top of Gakuro's back until Suo falls, reaches out, and deliberately grabs Sujita by her sports bra and jostles it while tugging her off Gakuro's back. And Gakuro, who has had 2 fit teenage women on his spine for the past minute, faster than they can fall, whips over and grabs them both. And of course he catches them in a way so that he is A, grabbing one boob in each hand, and B, pressing the other boob from each of them into his face, because this is a harem series.
Yes.
Catches them. And so he just instinctively protected them, but then afterwards he's like, I'm sorry. And then Sujita and Suo have a moment where they go, come on again, because this has happened to both of them. And then they're like, wait, it's happened to you? And then they look at him again. And then Shiroha shows up and just was, I guess, silently listening the whole time.
Yeah, she's had enough. She was in the bath like, the fuck you doing, little sister? Like, we both kind of accepted we're romantic rivals for this guy. And I think this is where she's had enough. She's like, this is where I think I'm like, it's intentional. Tsuo's going to look like a kind of a bitch because I think Soroa's about to dress her down for it.
It seems to be that way. She drags Suo out of there, and Sujita kind of realizes what has happened. And then she's like, I'm going to do it. And she just turns to Gakura and says, hey, the summer festival's in 5 days. Will you go with me?
Yeah.
Just gets it out there. And Gakura, of course, is thinking about the promise the Nue made on his behalf to Rito, which was he'll confess his love at the summer festival. So makes this a bit extra stressful for him. More things are happening.
Yeah, then you remember this is a Bleach clone, and it's time for us to reveal, the new fucking Hollow we got to deal with.
So the bad guys are saying, like, I will link Raisei's spirit with Gashadakuro. It will take the Exorcist Bureau half a second to notice. So they're starting that. Shiroha and Suo rush out. They pass by Rito on their way. He's on the phone with someone and who's like, hey, what happened there? And he's like, someone just passed through. And they asked him to continue his report. And they say, all right, understood. We're in your debt. We'll heal your girlfriend, I promise you. And Rito's like, she's not my girlfriend. I had zero intention of helping out with your domestic trouble, and I was starting to like the Sixth Branch, Captain Yajima as well, but nothing's more precious to me than Mizuki. So, an actual kind of interesting thing happening here in the meantime. And then Raisei is getting linked with Gashadakuro. Face go perch!
Yeah.
And then...
my boy gets folded into a basketball?
And then seemingly unfolds from it, I guess, as Gashadakuro emerges and says, what a repulsive vessel. A bad, ugly match. It doesn't suit me. Yeah, so that's it. That's our chapter. We are dealing a weird mix of different things at this point. This is a very dumb chapter, but at least it was entertainingly dumb through most of it.
Yes.
So I'll take that.
I will take
Akane-banashi!
Almost done, Nick. Almost done.
Story 131, dismantled. Last time, after finding out that Shigema is going to have to take cancer treatment and stuff, we learned that his school is being disassembled and all the apprentices are going to be given new masters, and it's basically already been decided on their behalf. We see that Maikeru is having a meeting with, Azu, that was his name.
I don't remember.
The mustached guy. So
yep.
He's like, what are you doing here? And he's told, look, I've seen some of your performances and I'm very impressed. Offering support during his hospital stay is something anyone can do, and it can be arranged on our end. We want you to focus on your craft. We don't want you to be distracted by this. There is no one to look after the Futatsume and below them. And Maikeru says, I'm going to look after them. Just like, oh.
He wants to be a good big brother.
He is told, you just become a Shinuchi here, and you've got bigger problems. You can't be dealing with this. But Maikeru's like, look, being an apprentice means you have a parent-child relationship with your master. How can I call myself his son if I don't support him right now? And Iken says, look, I understand this is a heartless decision, but it's logical, and you should be able to see that. The Shikima school is going to be dismantled. The other 4 apprentices will be taken in by other guardians. And of course, we learned last time that Isho is going to take in Akane. And Akane is just overwhelmed by this, and she's like, that means that I'm going to be under Isho Arakawa, the man who did that to my father, in so many words. And she goes into fight mode for a second. She's like, who the before she could say anything, though, someone does her a favor.
Yes.
As Urara steps in and puts her hand on Akane's shoulder. And she says, yeah, so I'm not usually one to pay people hospital visits, but I didn't expect that there would be all these people here. Are you putting on a show here, Isho? Does Rakugo obsession know no bounds? You gotta control yourself. So, Oh, she's actually saying that to Akane. Sorry. She's like, "Hey, are you gonna like? What are you doing? Are you like freaking gonna make a big display of yourself? Control yourself here." She looks at Isho and she says, I'm sure you feel unsettled by all this. You guys were the old Shigama's children. I'm sure seeing your counterpart like this has to affect you." And Isho goes, and walks out.
Yeah. My man dropped the coldest fucking twist in like recent Jump history, and then he's just like, I'm out. Yeah, fuck you. I don't want to deal with this conversation.
Guriko comes back afterwards and gets this whole story too, because he wasn't here for the explanation of like, hey, they're gonna give us all new masters. And he's like, why? We should be supporting Master right now. They want us to do that. And Urara chuckles a little bit, and she's like, yeah, sorry. I don't mean to laugh at you guys, but you guys are clueless about the way things are going to work. You got to ask yourselves, what would Shigama think? Should you guys just be wasting your time, all this time you could be learning on account of his troubles? Or should you be continuing to receive instruction based off of what he has already given you? Which of those do you think demonstrates proper Kibataraki? And she looks like a snake when she says this. Her eyes go all slitted when she says it. And then she leaves. She's just gone too. She dropped that bomb on them, and now they're just kind of like left to deal with it. And Guriko's, holding his head. He's like, why can't we do anything? Then Akane thinks quietly about this, remembers what she has been told, which is there are things that need no words to understand. Ani-san and I swore an oath. She runs after Urara, catches her as she's about to get into her car, and she says, what did you mean when you said that the old Shigama's children and counterpart, all that stuff? What did you mean by that? And Urara tells her, like, it's none of your business. You don't need to worry about that. But Akane tells her, like, hey, you've known my master for a long time. You can tell me things. And Urara's like, don't push it. And she says, Master taught me Shigama's art. And I don't want to invade his privacy. I don't want to dig into people's past and stuff. But there is so much I don't know. And I can't perform Kibataraki for my master because I don't know what would be best for him right now. Please tell me, what did the previous Shigama mean to them? And she has with her the picture that she took from Shigama's home of he and Isho with their master. And of course, her finger is covering up the old Shigama's face.
Yeah, do you think we're going to get a little, like a flashback next chapter?
It wouldn't be the first that Urara's delivered, so sure. Possibly.
All right. Well, let us wrap up. It's a good chapter, by the way, of Akane-banashi. Yeah. Let's wrap up this week with One Piece, chapter 1130, The Accursed Prince, continuing our cover story. Someone stole Yamato's sword while he was sleeping.
Yeah. That's what a douche.
Good. Yeah. Because that's the one I believe he needs to take around the country as well. So we opened the chapter with Frankie. Hey, all the old Straw Hats, basically, are... we see them and
team adult.
Yeah. Well, like also just they're all the later Straw Hats, which makes sense for something that happens later in this chapter. But they're like, hey, guys, we love you, Giants. Search is over. We know Luffy and them are alive. We just don't know where, so it makes the most sense for us to go back to Elbath. Besides, at this point, we've wasted all of our food searching, so like we'll just starve.
And on the party beforehand.
Yeah. So let's do this before that happens. So the Giants are going to head back towards Elbath. Cut over to Luffy. They made it outside the castle, but there's a giant rope bridge from the castle to the rest of the island. And all of the Straw Hats are like, this seems intimidating.
Yep.
And they realize two giants are heading towards them. It is Gerd and Goldberg, the doctor and cook of the new giant pirates, respectively. And they're just shitting on Road, basically, or Rodo, as apparently.
He sucks. He just sucks.
Yeah, Gerd is like, why did they have to bring, Hardin had to bring that weird-ass loser into the group? And Goldberg's like, oh, he's a good navigator. She's like, no, he's the real shame of Elbath, not Prince Loki. A little tease to Prince Loki, or get later. But she basically notes that, like, yeah, it's good that we catch intruders, but he kind of just brought intruders to our island. So... there's a brief moment, a couple characters trying to react, but we're basically told, like, no, Nami, like, stops Luffy from shouting out their attention. They're going to sneak by. It's very perilous because it's a bridge meant for giants. The space between the planks is actually like a perilous like chasm for most of these characters. But they're
Chopper's helping Nami out because he's just in reindeer form and letting her ride on his back while he jumps the gaps. It's nice.
But there is a moment where Luffy is standing in the air, I guess, kind of feeling the energy of the universe. And he's like, something's tingling. Someone's radiating something here. Sanji just straight up says, I'm not going with you. And Zoro tries to offer to go, and Sanji says, no, you're not. We're not letting you get lost in a forest, motherfucker. That will never find you.
He specifically says, you're not going to set foot in any forest in the entire world. So not only are we not letting you go into a forest now, we are never letting you go into a forest.
Yeah, that is just a non-starter. So Luffy's like, all right, well, I think it's probably whoever I heard in the Block Kingdom. I'm going to go check it out. So you guys, I'll meet you up there, basically. And Luffy jumps down. They note that they're like, oh, there's mostly only wolves down there. So I don't know why he did that. Mm-hmm. Cut over to the giant pirates. We get notes that Dory and Broggy, now that it's known that they're still alive, their bounties have been updated and they're both 1.8 billion berries.
That's a lot.
Robin notes that this is basically inflation, but it is notable that they are very high bounties as well. And she notes that the news is labeling Luffy as the murderer of Vegapunk. There's a cute moment where Lilith's like, ha ha ha, so he killed me, huh? And Frankie has to be like, you know he was trying to save you. But I do like her evil laugh of like, wah ha ha.
She is so evil.
Yeah. But Robin also notes that when Luffy turns into his free form, does this mark always appear on his arm? And it's the X from Alabasta, which I was like, why is no one pointing it out? And I was like, because none of them were there. But this is all of the Straw Hats who joined after that moment, basically.
It's a very interesting set of coincidences, because I was really weirded out by that. I was like, is this just like a different X? Why aren't any of them commenting? I was like, oh, right. Robin didn't know about that.
Yeah, Robin showed up. She was on the boat at that point, I think, but she hadn't revealed herself yet.
How long do you think she was just on the Going Merry while all of that was going on? Do you think from the moment they started fighting, she was like, I'm just gonna go on their boat and just wait?
There's that whole scene with the fucking Den Mushis where Bon Clay's announcing stuff to them, don't worry, I'm doing all. She's like, Jesus, man, I've got places, my legs are starting to go numb. I need to do a cool intro, so can you help me out here? Anyways, it is worth noted, the Giants start talking about Haruden and how Haruden is a member of Straw Hat Luffy's crew, Grand Alliance or whatever, but also notably, he is the son of the last king of Elbath, who we find out later is dead. So there's a lot of news kind of fluttering about. But they also note that, in between all of this happening, the Giants, while they were gone, the king had another child, the accursed Prince Loki, super, super evil, was sentenced to crucifixion. It took everyone to stop him. And he really, really wanted a legendary devil fruit that the Elbath royal line gets. And he killed his father and then ate the fruit. So I don't know if we're about to discover a potential detail about devil fruits and how they are obtained finally. But this giant basically just notes that the next time Loki, the accursed prince, is released, the world will be brought to ruin. He is the shame of Elbath. We get a big 2-page spread of a giant chained to a tree, a giant tree. And the giant yells out to name yourself. They can't see or anything. They are basically completely restrained. And then Luffy's just like, I'm Luffy, the man who's going to be king of the pirates. And the figure is like, king, eh? And Luffy says, where am I and who are you? And we get another 2-page spread, this time of Elbath, as the figure announces themselves as this is the Warland, Elbath's kingdom of warriors, the most powerful nation in the world, which once lived and breathed warfare. And I am the sun god who brings the world to an end. Loki.
Yeah. I love the appearance of Elbaf, how it looks as though it is like tiered, like there is a set of like
Yes.
buildings on top of some of the first set of branches, but also there's clearly a bunch of stuff like below that on the rocks. There's a freaking just giant
Giant
sword,
sword. I was
like
like,
bigger than Giant's giant sword,
yeah.
sticking through it. And I like how, of course, it very much calls to mind Yggdrasil, the world
Yes.
tree. And I love Loki's appearance. He's got the horned helmet that, of course, a lot of people associate with Loki, but the fact that he is just this massive man chained up with all these sea stone cuffs to this tree has clearly been there a really long time, and yet he's still grinning like he is got the advantage on everything. He's got the bandages over his eyes so you can't even see them. Very cool looking.
Yes.
I thought that this was a great reveal just to look at him.
Yes, I think it was a cool reveal for Loki, and really, really excited to see a little bit about his character. Let's get ready to wrap this one up, though. I'm sorry to have kept you so long.
Oh, it's no worry, guys. That is it for Weekly Manga Recap. Quinn, tell me what your favorite chapter was this week and who your MVP is.
Oh my gosh, I thought there was like a clear answer for chapter of the week, but I really enjoyed most of them this week. I think it's going to be Ichi the Witch. I thought it had a lot of emotional moments to it. I liked how Ichi himself came about in the chapter. It was just like a lot of good emotions, and like it was like a cool spread at the end of the big explosion. Like, I'm Ichi the Witch.
There are a lot of good chapters this week, but I am going to agree on that. It was just fun from beginning to end. It was nice to see why Kumugi is here as the third person in this group. She just has a very different dynamic with Ichi than either the two other characters in their group do. Aurora, of course, is very antagonistic, and Descarus is just not a very good mentor. She just is not going to like walk Ichi through anything. So if there's going to be someone who's going to be the knowledgeable person to help out Ichi at different points, it makes sense that we have someone else to do that. And I like this kind of immediate sort of like big brother little sister sort of relationship that they have, but also big sister little brother relationship because she is teaching him things about the world. It's all very nice. There was the funny moment with Descarus, the two big funny moments with Descarus for that matter, and then the really cool triumphant thing where Ichi unleashes Inazure at the end. So just a lot of great things in this chapter.
Yeah.
My MVP is going to be Chinatsu because she was a badass in this, and all she did was just talk calmly at a guy. I really just appreciate that we had this chance for a very typical romance misunderstanding subplot to take place, and she just immediately understood what had happened, understood that something had been done to Taiki, that it was not his fault, and saw through this blatant lie, and then destroyed a man by talking to him and saying she didn't like him. So
Pretty much, yeah. I'm going to give mine to Gina for Unchanged. I really loved her kind of introspective, like, change versus whether your soul stays the same, and her, like, kind of either or statement where she's like, yeah, I am unchanged, but I have changed as a person in my way. So, yeah, it was good stuff. I really like Gina in this chapter. And the audience, by the way, completely agreed with you. Ichi the Witch and Shinatsu as character of the week. You're the voice of the people.
Thank you. Guys, that's going to do it all for Weekly Manga Recap this week. We record the show Wednesdays in the evening, usually starting around 7:30 to 8 Eastern Time. We go live via twitch.tv/RoloT. If you want to check out when the show is going live, join us on the Discord, which will be linked wherever this gets posted. And you can just, find great community there that discusses the chapters as they come out. There are regular meetings on there where people just kind of hang out, play games, all sorts of good stuff. And also you can use it to find the Google Doc maintained by Ninja X3i, which keeps track of series that we have taken as recommendations. You can add your vote or your own suggestion for something for us to cover in the future, like we did for You Will Hear the Voice of the Dead today. And also take part in the MVP and favorite series voting that Quinn just mentioned the results of for this week. This show gets posted on iTunes and Spotify. The main audio feed is weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. The video version gets posted on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap, where we also have an opening sequence by Malajack Stillitz and Wednesday Cheddar, and occasionally title cards by Steve Man, whose work you can find by just searching for Steve Man art, and it's all in all sorts of places. We also have the Patreon, where we recorded a special bonus thing very recently. So check that out. Patreon.com/weeklymangarecap to get that bonus episode where we talked about fan fiction, basically, like and like
we create some fan fiction.
We kind of like dipped our toes into it after I kind of had left it behind for a long time. So
yeah. And maybe we opened the door to something. Who knows? Who knows?
So check that out, patreon.com/weeklymangarecap if you want bonus content and also to help support the show financially a little bit.
Yeah.
That's going to do it. So do we have a recommendation for Halloween next
week?
I
was going to say, are you good to do another Halloween recommendation in a week?
I can do one.
All right. So this is a 1-volume series, so should not be too hard. This was recommended by Galeosin. Bibliomania. A young girl looks to escape from a book that has her trapped.
Okay. So we will be doing that next time, everybody. We'll catch you then. Thank you all for joining us.
Spooky.
That's how you do it, yeah.
Yeah.